Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking sports locally and nationally. Join the conversation on our social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go.
Instead of looking deep inside, every word I have to say, keep it.
Welcome back for another edition of the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. What is going on, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. His name is Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
And also joining us in studio, it is your coach. It is my coach. It's not Notre Dame's coach, but it is the coach, Coach Duffy.
Yeah, did anything else happen this weekend? Everything is such a blur after Saturday. I don't remember much.
That's why we're going to deep dive into the land of sports here on this podcast. So definitely join in the conversation on social media. You can find all our links and so much more at OchoDuroParlayHour.com. And always remember to use the hashtag ODPH, because surprisingly, there was more going on than the Notre Dame game this weekend.
Yeah, I'll say those in South Bend, Indiana would lead you to believe otherwise.
I'll just make some shit up and just pretend like I remember what happened this weekend.
Yeah, fair enough. But there was some other big games that happened this weekend, and we obviously kick off each and every edition of the sports edition of the podcast by recapping the week that was in the NFL with our locks and leaps. So, Pad, kick us off.
Well, I'm going to start with my leap, seeing as we all took the same lock. I chose the Las Vegas Raiders to defeat the LA Chargers, and they did by the final score of 31-26. Derek Carr, 13 of 23 for 165 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Justin Herbert, 28 of 42 for 326 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions.
Coach, your thoughts?
The Chargers, I should start with the Raiders. The Raiders have just a very quietly good defense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely something that will cause issues later on. Like we said, they're obviously in, a divisional, wild card spot. So they definitely, with that defense, can, cause some issues for teams later down the stretch. And offensively, underwhelming, to say the least, and That's pretty much been the story for the entire year. This is probably the first game where Booker has been their leading running back, which is an interesting tell. But, the Raiders are solid. And you know what? For the Chargers, just a bump in the road. I really like this team. Herbert has played tremendous since coming and taking over for Tyrod Taylor, and I think that this is something that they're going to build upon next year, that they have a good enough defense that I definitely think that and plus they've got, Keenan Allen, a wide receiver, decent running backs, so they've got weapons, maybe just a few pieces away from really being able to push the Chiefs for a divisional crown.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, they will be my sleeper team next year, the Chargers.
Okay.
Pat?
I'd say it, a lot of what Coach said is true. Raiders, good win for them. They're not the flashiest team on offense. Derek Carr, good quarterback, nothing huge. Running game is nothing real super flashy. Receiving, they got Nelson Aguilar, who had 2 catches for 55 yards and 1 touchdown, and then Hunter Renfrow, 2 catches for 60 yards, no touchdowns. So they got a few recognizable names, but again, it's nothing flashy. But that defense is just quietly, making some big plays, and I think this is the benefit to John Gruden and that whole crew over there, because they're flying under the radar and kind of playing with house money, where it's like, okay, you got the Chiefs in that conference, you've got the Ravens in that conference, you've got the Steelers in that conference, along with the Bills were playing very well, and you got a lot of teams, and not just the AFC and the NFC. So the Raiders at this point are kind of like, I don't want to say forgotten, but like outside of the Vegas and I guess Oakland maybe area, nobody's really thinking about them, and I think that's going to play to their benefit. Where obviously because I fully believe they'll make it into the playoffs on a wild card spot, but obviously the teams won't fly under the what's the word I'm looking for? They won't take it easy on them. They won't overlook them.
Mm-hmm.
But I can fully see this team maybe getting an upset win in the first round in the playoffs, not making it far, but just I can see them kind of messing around and playing with house money and getting a win.
You never know what you're going to get out of this Raiders team, but I fully believe that they could sneak in the final wild card spot.
Absolutely.
I fully do. They are playing, like you talked about, with house money, that they're not expected to get there.
No.
That they're obviously in the shadow of the Chiefs and that AFC West, and we all get that and we all understand that. But they're winning the games that they shouldn't technically be winning.
Oh, yeah.
And that just kind of proves of what the system is working with Gruden and company, which Honestly, I didn't foresee this happening this season.
No.
I really didn't. But
especially with how bad things were between the fan base and Gruden to the point where there was that, and I don't know if it's still active. There was that website with the countdown timer to when Gruden would leave or could leave.
yeah,
But the Raiders currently sitting in the number 6 seed in the AFC conference. Right ahead of them is Baltimore at 6-2. So, and they're looking good.
they're looking good. And to flip the coin, though, the Los Angeles Chargers.
Who are the Chargers?
What are the Chargers?
The same Chargers they were even when Phillip Rivers was there.
It appears so, except I believe the stat is that out of all their losses this year, it's been a combined 24 points.
Yeah, it's been close.
It's something like that.
Yeah, it's just coming down to not finishing games.
Yeah,
I mean that Denver game.
Let's take a
they,
look-see.
they had no business losing. Drew Lock comes down, game-winning drive, throws a touchdown, and wins that game.
Yeah, you're right. So the first game they beat Cincinnati by 3 points. Second game they lost in overtime to Kansas City by 3 points. Lost to Carolina by 5 points. Lost to Tampa Bay by 7. Lost to New Orleans by 3. Beat Jacksonville by 10. Lost to Denver by 1. And then just lost to the Raiders by 5.
Yeah, it's something absurd.
That's nuts.
For a team that is playing very much under potential,
Yeah.
to keep losing games like this, if you flip the coin, though, they should be a lock for the AFC West title right now. Mm-hmm. But they just can't close. I mean, you would think with Kansas City, they should be right there, neck and neck.
I mean, Kansas City's only lost one game.
Right.
So, I mean, the Chargers definitely, the Tampa Bay loss was a...
Chargers should be ahead of the Broncos. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. So, when you break that down, the Tampa Bay loss is a decisive loss. 7 points. That's difficult to make up. You got to score.
Yeah, I'll give you that one.
You got to score 8 minimum to be in the lead.
So that's one loss.
Right, it's one loss. And then I would say this, a 5-point loss where they were dominated in the second half, and weren't the same team that they were in the first half. That's another decisive loss. I would say anything where it's a touchdown or more, or 5 or more, when it's a 2-possession game, that's a decisive win.
So I'll say 2 losses.
Two losses though. So neck and neck with the Chiefs, but the Chiefs' one loss was, let's be real, definitely a underperformance by them, to say the least,
or an overperformance by those said
or
Raiders.
The Raiders, or an overperformance by the Raiders. Absolutely. Because when you look at the way that the Raiders have played, kind of up and down all year, really the best performance that they had, I would say, besides that Chief win, was that game against Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for the Chargers, I gotta say this is a bit of an overperformance for them, just because we don't know where they would have been at this point had things not gone the way they did. Had Tyrod not gotten his lung punctured in a freak accident, maybe he'd still be the quarterback, maybe not. Who's to say? We can't even say hindsight's 20/20 here, because we just don't know what would have happened. But for the fact that Tyrod did go down with that unfortunate injury, Justin Herbert is stepping in as a rookie quarterback in a system that might be what he's used to from college, might not be. I don't know. But the fact that
it's definitely not.
It's definitely not.
Yes, Oregon's offense versus the Chargers' offense is. Period. College offense versus the NFL offense.
Oh, yeah.
2 night and day. But, he's under center. They're running traditional run plays. It's not, the read options and stuff. So, night and day difference.
But so you factor in, different offense. Didn't really get a chance to learn the system or maybe get familiar with the playbook like a lot of rookies have because of everything with the pandemic and not really having a preseason. So the fact that he's keeping them in games like this, I think they're very overperforming.
They're definitely overperforming.
Yeah.
But it also the credit to him that he might be the real deal after all.
Maybe.
Obviously, everyone was saying Burrow was going to be a lock for Rookie of the Year. Not necessarily so fast, my friends.
Yeah.
That Herbert is definitely making a case. And I will say this, though. With the Chargers' record being what it is, I don't think that Anthony Lynn should be fired at the end of the season if they keep losing.
No.
He's kept them in most games, but they got to do something to switch it up, though, to close. That is the biggest thing with this team, that they should be winning, but they're not. And I think if the Chargers do make a move at the head coach position, I just think that that's a bad look.
That'd be foolish.
I understand if they did, but I would also say it just wouldn't make a lot of sense to me looking at the big picture.
I don't think this is a Jets Adam Gase scenario, where a team's just so disengaged from their head coach. You can definitely see, and from the early episodes that I watched of Hard Knocks, which I didn't watch a lot of the season because it just wasn't the same, so it was kind of tough.
Sure.
You can see that the players were engaged, and definitely buying into the system, which, I mean, when you're talking about having a rookie quarterback, you're going to have games where you lose, those kind of games. And, as far as the, Herbert to, Burrow, type situations. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Anthony Lynn went into the season looking at their overall potential and saw, their defense with Bosa and the other defensive end, and they've got a really good interior. They've got good linebackers, good secondary. So I he definitely probably saw the potential of this team and was like, yeah, this is a playoff contender. So do the safe thing, play Tyrod, Taylor. He's shown that he can be the bridge quarterback that can, lead a team in a transitional period to a playoff. He did it with the Bills. Arguably almost did it in Cleveland until they ultimately went to Baker. So, he probably saw the safe bet in Tyrod. And who knows when they would have gone and pulled the switch to Herbert. I mean, it might have been after the bye week, which is coming up this week, because I'm in fantasy hell right now, and I realize this because
the dreaded week 9.
Yeah, the dreaded week 9. But at the same time, I saw this, and when the draft was coming out, I said Herbert's going to be a great quarterback, and I knew that the Chargers got something special in this kid, and I think with a wide receiver that they have in Keenan Allen, I don't think it's the lack of offense. I just think it's the lack of knowing how to finish games, and that comes with young coaching.
Sure.
For God's sakes, I'm going to talk about Notre Dame in the next segment and how they were, in big game matchups and close game matchups, not able to finish stuff, and finish games, and that comes from a lack of being there, and a lack of experience, and just a lack of general trust in your X's and O's.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at some stats currently as we record. Where is he? There is Justin Herbert is number 10th in the NFL in terms of passing yards.
That's insane, and he's only played 4 weeks.
He's ahead of Drew Brees. He's just a little bit behind Aaron Rodgers. So you lend credit to that. But then you look at the overall in terms of yards per game. They are 5th in the NFL in yards per game with 284.4 yards per game. Just Dallas, Atlanta, Kansas City, and Seattle are ahead of them. And then in terms of passing yards, they are top of the league. 3,360. Teams such as, like we mentioned, Kansas City, and then you got Arizona and San Francisco ahead of them. But then you look over at the defense. Defense is a little kind of middle of the pack. But like I said, I don't think you can fire their head coach just because with the injury and not expecting to play Herbert maybe this point in the season, and just they're overperforming. I'd say.
No, they're definitely doing a lot to try winning. They just haven't figured out the way to lock it in, and that's going to be a problem that they got to answer moving forward. Obviously, they got some time going into the bye weeks, and I have to make a stat correction. This is week 9. See, this was my bad week for fantasy football.
Okay.
Next week is week 10.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm in fantasy hell.
Yes, because week 10 is absolutely going to be killer for any fantasy players.
Week hell.
Yes, because the Chiefs are on a bye, the Cowboys are on a bye, Atlanta's on a bye, so that only hurts some people, and I know it'll really crush some that the Jets are now on a bye. So, Coach, let us talk about your leap.
Yes, so
I'll state the fact that he should have stuck with his original leap.
Yeah, we did offer that.
So my original was going to be the Giants, but I went away from that and just went on a limb. They covered the spread, which in Vegas is a win. So yes. I'm still in my head counting it. I picked the Patriots, or I picked the Jets to beat the Patriots. And they were pretty close. Pad, go ahead.
Yeah, so New England ended up winning by the final score of 30-27, with Nick Folk hitting a game-winning field goal at the end of regulation. Cam Newton, 27 of 35 for 274 yards passing, no touchdowns, no interceptions. And then Joe Flacco, 18 of 25 for 262 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception.
So where do you go from here with the Jets? I mean, can you go anywhere?
No, there's only one. There's one. This was their best peak performance that they're going to get. This was their one opportunity to seize everything they've ever wanted, and they just let it slip.
I see what you did there.
Thank you.
Well played.
They had everything going for them this game. Flacco was looking like a wizard out there, harnessing his old, Baltimore Raven days. The wide receivers were playing well. Frank Gore was able to carry the ball.
And didn't they say something in the game? I could be wrong. Wasn't this the first game the Jets all season have had their top 3 receivers playing?
Yep.
So that went to their favor.
Defense looked great in the first half. They were limiting Cam Newton. Greg Williams really dialed up a great game plan. Another stat that I heard is that the Jets' entire defense is filled of undrafted rookies or free agent players that were cut.
Yeah.
Not even guys that were, on free agency and they signed. Free agents that were cut. So, that's just, Greg Williams is, making literally making chicken salad out of chicken shit. And then to flip it to the, and I already talked to the offense. So to flip it to the Patriots, damn, dude, Cam Newton's not a good quarterback. I'm sorry. I know 27 to 35 looks good, but I watched a big stretch of this game, and all of those passes were inside the numbers. And not you got to be. They even talked about on the broadcast. Greg Williams was daring him to throw it outside the numbers, especially late in the second half or late in the first half, late second quarter, and just the accuracy of those passes are bad.
Well, and Cam's never been known as a passing quarterback. He's always been a running quarterback.
Right, but Jesus, like
I also think the fact that yet again, because I don't think the guy they traded for Miami played or even started, they had an entire team of undrafted players going and none of their normal guys. So that definitely worked against it. But I think it just goes back to, like I said, Cam's not a passing quarterback. And watching that game, I was amazed he got any passes off, as many blitzes as, Williams was dialing up there.
Yeah, well, that's why you pass block. And even Brian Greasy said that it almost looks like Cam doesn't trust the offensive line because he's not settling his feet in. He doesn't know where the protections are going, and that's an issue too. And something that you wouldn't is an uncharacteristic thing of a Bill Belichick coach team. But I don't know. I root for Cam Newton. I want him to be good. I love the things that he did at Auburn. He's a ton of fun. The early years of Carolina were magical. The Superman, the whole kit and caboodle. The play. Oh, watch this, and then the wheel route to Christian McCaffrey. All that shit's great. But, when you get to the crux of it and you really boil this thing down, you watch it, it's just not good quarterback play.
Well, and I think in regards to the offensive line thing, I think they've had the same starting offensive line from start to finish all season, maybe once or twice.
Hey.
They've had offensive line injuries like you wouldn't goddamn believe.
Listen, I get it. I'm a Giants fan.
No, I know. I know.
Anybody want to talk offensive line? It's me.
But I also think this is kind of, again, goes back to what happened with the preseason and pandemic and not having, and Lord knows if they even had a normal practice like they normally do in a normal preseason.
Yeah, but let's talk about week 1 to week now.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, I'll give you that. But Cam has been, he didn't say it initially, but he's come out since and said, listen, I just wasn't grasping the playbook like
Sure.
I am. I'm still not. I'm still getting my feet under this. I think given the fact that, were there a normal preseason and everything that could have gone the way it normally does, they might look a little better. There'd still be some growing pains because
new quarterback, new system.
New quarterback, new system. They talk about this with Tom Brady, and maybe part of the reason Brady struggled earlier in the season to where he was playing at least up to this week.
Still fucking struggling. Still looking like shit.
Well, this is what somebody was saying prior to this game.
Yeah.
Where it's okay, you go to on this team, your old team, the call for some plays like red 28, or whatever it is. You go to the other team, it's not that, it's some other play. So you've been calling the same thing and the same whatever for 5, 6.
Right, the vernacular is different, but the outcome is still the same.
Human beings are have tendencies to just do the same thing and they're used to it or whatever. So retraining your brain to not do that takes some time, and I think that's the case here.
I think that there's a couple different factors going on with Cam Newton in this. One, I think we've all touched upon. He's not feeling comfortable behind the offensive line.
Sure.
That I think there's some underlying factors going on there. And he has never been the passing quarterback. The only year that he was ever great is when he had Norv Turner working with him.
Well, yes, I don't want to crux him as that, though, because he does throw. And when before the shoulder injury, threw a very good ball.
I agree with you there, but it's just that was the year that he really was coming into his own, and he's never been right since.
Sure.
And where I also don't think he's been right this season is when he was put on COVID protocol, and he was gone.
Yeah.
That stretch, he has been a different quarterback. It's been day and night.
And the other thing too is he's grimacing a lot.
Yes,
I don't know if anybody's they didn't talk about it on the show. I know this is pure speculation, but I know he got fucking whacked.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that one hit that he got by that safety on that nickel blitz. Yikes! But even before then, like you just see because they're not running him as much.
No.
Which is definitely a sign. I mean, outside the Bills game where they definitely didn't this game. And even in the Bills game, when he got up, it's definitely like
he's not playing at 100%.
It's that 40-year-old man getting out of bed like, oh, shit, I'm stiff as hell type getting up. You know, it's not the, I'm handspringing out of bed, you know?
Yeah.
I think that there's some underlying factors going on there as well. I think he's still hurt.
Could
and
be.
I think he's definitely showing it. That I don't think that he is being very forthcoming about his injuries. And
he never
wasn't
wasn't like that. I mean, even in Carolina with the shoulder injury.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
And I think that this is where it's coming back to haunt him
Could be.
big time. Because you can see the drop-off in play. It's very evident. And especially for a very bad Jets team, which, I mean, granted, I always say this on the show, and I mean it. It's rivals. It doesn't matter how bad your team is. Your rivals will always step up to face you.
And especially when Gilmore didn't play, Lawrence Guy didn't play. So they said on the broadcast that there was some notable subtractions from that defense that weren't pandemic related. Mm-hmm. You know, there were some holes and there were some guys who hadn't played all year that were on that defense, and it showed. I mean, Christ, what was it? Jackson, the cornerback, blew 3 plays and gave up at least 3 scores.
Yeah.
Before he made the miraculous interception.
It goes to show that, I mean, obviously the Jets were trying to win this. At least it looked it. Mm-hmm. And then the Jets became the Jets in the fourth quarter. I mean, there's no other way around it.
Yeah.
The Jets are who we thought they were. They are awful. They need to implode this team.
Their leading rusher is 37 years old.
Exactly. The writing is on the wall that they have definitely checked out. And obviously, Yeah, they're.
I mean, emphasize the checked out.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, this team had everything and just died down the stretch.
They had him on the ropes and they let him off.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's a team that has shown quit.
Yes, that they didn't even want to win this.
No.
I mean, that was just the perception of this. That they got up there and it was like, oh shit, what do we do now?
Yeah,
and they had nobody taking a leadership role to try finishing.
And
this.
they talked about that too in the broadcast. That it's players. They hear the rumblings. The fall on the draft board, the lose on purpose, and all that stuff, and the tank for Tua or the tanking for Trevor, and they hear all that, and as players you have pride, but you also can just see that there is no, I mean, I don't know if it's I don't think that these players are worried about tanking for Trevor because they're probably 9/10 of them not going to be on the team next year, but It's definitely a thing of. You can just tell that they are not involved in whatever Adam Gase is doing right now.
No, and it's surprising that nobody is stepping up to really take the leadership role on that team because Joe Flacco, it's his first year with the team. But you've been around long enough that, you command a bit of respect. No, it's not, a Tom Brady, Drew Brees,
right?
Elite level quarterback, but he's a very good quarterback. Everyone respects the hell out of the guy. Otherwise, they wouldn't want to play with the guy. Or hell, Frank Gore. The man is 37 years old and well outplaying, the shelf life of an average running back. You figure somebody like him would step up and kind of rally the troops, but they're not. And they're sitting here 0-9. Christ almighty, I don't know how they're going to get a win because they got a bye week this coming week. The rest of their schedule is the Chargers, Dolphins, Raiders, Seahawks, Rams, Browns, and then the Patriots again to close the year out.
They got a shot against the Chargers.
At New England. No, not against. Where's the Charger game?
It's at Los Angeles.
Because it goes to say the unwinnable object meets the unclosable force. You never know. I'm saying that one might be a winnable one.
Yeah,
I'm saying Cleveland just because Christ knows you don't know who's going to show up.
Oh no,
Cleveland's there.
There are a couple games, but as it's been touched upon, they obviously have mentally quit.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They had the Patriots on the ropes and they couldn't finish them.
I mean, as a fan, like as a guy who is a Giants fan, so he's in the same market, so he sees it. Mm-hmm. Christ, this is the pain that I felt with the years with McAdoo and Schumer.
Yeah.
This is that frustration. It's like, the fucking problem.
Yeah.
The common denominator is coaching.
Yes.
Like, okay, yeah, there might not be a ton of talent, but at the end of the day, this dude, I mean, is supposed to be an offensive guru. This is the most points they scored all year.
Yeah.
They have a 37-year-old quarterback who, Sam Darnold's career is in question now because of. I mean, what happens to him next? Who knows? Because of what Adam Gase has done to him. Essentially damaged goods.
Mm-hmm.
You let arguably one of the best running backs in the last 10 years in the NFL come to your team,
Yep.
get sloppy, basically.
So you did fuck all with him.
Yeah, and then, messed him up mentally to now where he signs with a contender and is getting out-repped by Darnell Williams.
Yeah.
So you have literally taken, chicken salad, and Adam Gase, has turned it to chicken shit.
Yeah.
I'm killing these puns today. Killing them.
It's just mind-boggling how Gase still has a job. And
That's the frustrating part. That's what I was getting at.
The only reason I think he even has a job is because that successful year with Peyton?
Well, yeah, I mean,
he had that one, and I saw a stat it was from a broadcast. I think it was on a Fox broadcast at some point. Every offense he has been involved with since he left Peyton and the Broncos has been like 31st or 32nd in the league.
The thing is that like when Tom Brady went to Tampa Bay,
Sure.
it was a la when Peyton went to Denver.
Sure.
The difference is that when he went to that team, they were like,
Throw out the playbook. What do you want?
this is our playbook. What would you like and what do you want to get rid of? Because you can make the decisions. And that was cool. Like you got it, Peyton. And then that last year was probably the last year where it was like Peyton probably deferred a little bit more. Probably still had his hands on the playbook, but they ran the ball a lot more.
Sure.
You look at Tampa Bay and what's going on with Brady, it's
very
yeah,
similar.
it's very well. It's not as similar because they gave him the playbook and said, "Learn this."
Yeah.
And so you talk about what you had, and what I was getting at here is Gase was given this gift by having this veteran quarterback come on a year and just kill it. I mean, that was the year that he led the NFL in touchdowns and broke the season record for touchdowns. So yeah, you become the hottest name in football, and then all of a sudden you go from there and you have some bad years, and you just chalk it up to, well, I mean, I just didn't have the talent that I did when I was in Denver. No, it's because you're just not a good coach.
It's also mind-boggling, just to use, again, your Peyton example, where he went to Denver and was like, hey, basically, throw out the playbook. What do you want to do? Because I had to look it up. The Buccaneers' offensive coordinator is Byron Leftwich.
Sure.
Had a okay career in the NFL.
I'd say so.
If you got two quarterbacks, one currently playing, one formerly playing in the NFL, and you're the head coach, who would you rather go with for what plays you should do?
Oh, it's not. This isn't Byron Leftwich. This is Bruce Arenas.
Yeah, well,
he's shackled. I mean, Byron Leftwich is shackled right now.
We can get into that a little later.
Yeah.
What I mean was similar is you had an aging quarterback that
Yeah.
is
Right.
decline,
Yeah.
and your head coach is just deferring any kind of blame from it.
Right. It is a miracle, the fact that, and this is the other thing that I don't get either, is once he deferred play calling to the offensive coordinator in Gase with the Jets, that should have been they put up 3 points that game after.
Yeah.
That should have been you gave away play calling duty and we still can't score on offense. That's what Bill O'Brien got fired for. I'm deferring play calling. Okay, Bill, what are you doing then?
He's not doing anything, and it shows.
Exactly.
And then he's just waiting to get his pink slip come the Monday after the last game of the regular season.
And that is too long.
Yeah.
I mean, what that tells me as a Jets fan, sitting on the outside watching, is you are purposely trying to lose these games right now and not even making an attempt.
Oh no,
That's what I would see.
It's very evident, and that's why they're going to be the bottom of the AFC East moving forward. The Patriots are going to be the Patriots and still got some work to do. And they're going to be looking up right now at the leading Buffalo Bills, who pulled off my leap in a very highly contested game, I got to say.
Sure.
I got to say this, Pat, you got those stats.
Excuse me. So, yeah, Buffalo ended up winning by the final score of 44-34. Josh Allen, 31 of 38 for 415 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Russell Wilson, 28 of 41 for 390 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
Coach, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, to be fair, I don't really think that this shows, the actual telling of the tape of this game because, I mean, the Bills look great.
Yeah.
And, I mean, this was pretty much all Bills, especially the first half. The second half, obviously, Seattle kind of climbed in a little bit late in the game. They had that really good third quarter, but this was definitely a game that the Bills had their way with this Seattle team, which, again, I think, and this is a game where Seattle had Jamal Adams back, the first game that they played with Carlos Dunlap in the lineup, the trade that they got from Cincinnati. And, so here you think, all right, Seattle's finally going to have some pieces to fill the gaps defensively that they were having issues with in all the other games that the Arizona game comes to mind,
Right.
The Dallas game, even though they won that game, their defense did not look the same in that game without Jamal Adams. So now you're sitting here and you're like, all right, all these pieces are here. They're going to go into Buffalo and they're going to play a full team game and have it on both ends. And defensively, they just are they're just not good defensively. And it's a puzzle piece to me because they have the pieces to be good.
Absolutely.
And I mean, good for Buffalo. This is a great win.
Yeah.
This is a win. I mean, credit to you for picking them as your leap because you said in last week's show that this was a must-prove me game.
Yeah.
This was a show me what you really have. And for Buffalo to go in, because this is a game that Buffalo easily could have lost because of the way that they have performed against teams that are of the same level or better than, and a game that they lose. The Kansas City game comes to mind, so for them to come in and put the shellacking by 10 points, credit to Buffalo.
I mean, I got two things about this game. One, this just lends further credence to my belief, that if you have some terrible thing happen with your family, you will play inspired ball and torch the shit out of the other team. Brett Favre, when he lost his father, went into that Monday night game, 4 touchdowns in one half. The Ravens receiver, who I forget, torched the absolute shit out of the Patriots on Sunday Night Football. But then as we found out after the game, Josh Allen's grandmother had passed away the day before, so thoughts and condolences to his family. He comes out, 415 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and beats, the Seahawks, who everyone is penciling as, the number 1 team in the NFC. Russell Wilson, favorite for MVP award. They come out and do that. But I think the other thing, too, is I don't want to say they got lucky, but I think they just came out on the right foot where Ken, you and I were watching the game, and it definitely seemed like Seattle coming out to start the game. They seemed a little off. They weren't clicking maybe as well as they normally would. I mean, putting up no points in the first quarter, definitely uncharacteristic of them.
Yeah, no, this game definitely was the Bills must win. And they needed a statement. Yeah, it was a statement win against a playoff contending team. And also to touch upon, the Bills fans raised $100,000 for the Children's Hospital in Buffalo in honor of Josh Allen's grandmother.
Good for them.
So I definitely want to shout out Bills Mafia about that they really stepped up for this.
They do more than break tables.
Yes, they do. And I mean, that was just something that Josh was playing with a lot of emotion.
Yeah.
And from the moment they got the opening kickoff, I mean, they ran right down the field, and they were playing smart football, which they needed to do. They were definitely getting the passing game going because for all of the greatness we talk about Seattle, their defense for passing is dead last in the NFL. So
Which
Josh,
certain people out where we were watching should have learned.
yes, they should have.
Why aren't the Bills running? The Bills, why are they passing so much? Maybe because Seattle has the worst passing defense in the NFL.
Yes, because they also stopped the Bills' greatest draft pick of all time, Zach Moss, with 18 yards, even though he did get a touchdown.
Well, thank God they watched out for the onside kick with 9 minutes left.
Oh, the stories we could tell. But getting back to the serious commentary, though, the Bills played a solid 4 quarters, which is something that I've been screaming about for the longest time. That Leslie Frazier adapted to the defensive changes that he needed to do in that third quarter, because when Seattle started getting some momentum, and let's face it, they were going to do this.
It's like with Kansas City. You can only hold. It's like when the Patriots were playing Kansas City. I'm sitting there watching the game, going, "You need to put up points, guys. You can only hold Mahomes for so long. They're gonna go off at any moment here."
Yes. So once Russell Wilson started connecting with DJ Metcalf a little more, the Bills adjusted and they played smarter football on the defensive side of the ball. And it's what they needed to do, and they never took their foot off the gas. I mean, they did struggle offensively in the third quarter.
Yeah, I would say only 3 points.
Because you know what they tried doing? They tried running the ball, and the Seahawks were shutting them down. I mean, when you take a look at the entire rushing stat line for the Bills, Zach Moss had 18 yards, Singletary 1 yard.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of seems a little crazy to think because I thought he was running a little more. And then Josh Allen had 14 yards. So they weren't moving the ball on the ground. But what they did is Josh didn't go for the home run pass. And that was another telling sign, too. He was throwing enough to move the chains. And when he had 8 receivers in the receiving mix, all getting touches, this was a big deal for them. And this got everybody involved in the offense that Seattle struggled to neutralize everybody. Because Singletary, I think, was getting a little more stream passes because he wound up with 33 yards passing.
Right.
Or receiving. So when that is clicking, you're definitely going to make some moves.
Yeah.
And they definitely shut down DJ Metcalf to the point where he didn't dominate the game and take over.
Still had a great game. 7
yeah.
catches, 108 yards, 1 touchdown, which thank you for my fantasy team. But to your point, though, no, I mean, you saw what happened when the Bills started trying to run the ball more, because I'm looking at the stats here. The Seahawks are 4th in the NFL, with only allowing 83.6 rushing yards per game.
Yeah.
And then in terms of passing yards per game, they are dead last in the league, allowing 362.1 passing yards per game. Atlanta's ahead of them with 310.3.
Oh, Atlanta's winning something.
I mean, it's tough though, because you have to run the ball.
Yeah.
You can't avoid it. You can't not do it, because
sure.
I mean,
sure.
You, as much as you want to say, that those stats, you still got to get, you can't become, obvious with your intentions of offense.
Sure. But
you also, it's a way to move the clock.
Sure. Mm-hmm. That's true.
Incomplete pass to stop the ball, and stop the clock. So it's a tough, I get where you guys are coming from, because it's like the numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like if you, throw 400 times, but 200 of them are incomplete, and you're stopping the ball, you're stopping the clock, and you're going 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out,
Mm-hmm.
you're giving the team opportunity to score. So, I mean, yeah, 2nd and 9 isn't as good as maybe 2nd and 3, which you might get, with being able to throw the ball. It's just the likelihood of a completion is a lot less likely than, running the ball a yard.
Yeah.
And it's something that they need to work on, too. And I think that's one part of the offense, especially the offense coordinator is known for that.
Right.
Yeah.
To run the ball, and has not done that this season well. And obviously Moss and Singletary are adequate backs. They're a good 1-2 combo. But where they should have been running the ball in the third quarter with more success, they just weren't. And that's why they had to go back to the pass in the fourth.
Well, I mean, to me, I would probably try and leverage more zone reads, zone option reads with Allen, being mixed in the run a little more. I know in the NFL level to run, read options are a little more difficult. It doesn't need to be pure read options. It can be more of the designed looked read options where you still have to free, that defensive end still has to respect Kyle Allen's athleticism. Mm-hmm. That, if he goes, and runs by you, you're going to get shit for it in film.
Yeah.
And honestly, you know what? With that, I mean, even maybe some speed. I mean, Stephon, Diggs is a weapon that should be utilized in all sorts of facets of the game. Why not, some speed, some of those fucking, not wheel routes. It keeps popping in my head, but those speed runs, where he's coming in motion and he's taking the hand off. I mean, even stuff like that might help then free up, Moss and Singletary for up the middle.
They do that a lot with McKenzie, though, more.
Okay.
So Diggs, they kind of keep primarily on the outside.
All right.
But
well,
I understand what you're saying with that. And it's not a bad idea. It's just Dabble does not like to dance around with that
too
much. So it's just what team are you going to get to show up? And this one, like I say, is a great win. I'm not trying to downplay it at all. That they stepped up to a contender. They showed that they belong in that conversation. I'm not saying pencil them in for the Super Bowl just yet. There were a lot of the Monday morning quarterbacks were already talking about that. And I'm like, slow down. This is not the time to say the Bills are going to be locking up the AFC East and punching their ticket to the Super Bowl just yet. This is a great win. Don't get me wrong. I'm extremely happy about it, but there's still some work that needs to be done. And they got a big test next week against Arizona coming up. And Pad, you got the rest of that schedule?
Yeah, so they got Arizona. They got a bye week in Week 11. After that, they close out the year at home against the Chargers. They travel out to San Francisco to play the Niners. This is going to be a big one. Week 14, they are at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday night. Week 15, they travel out to Denver and play the Broncos. Week 16, they travel up to New England and play the Patriots on Monday Night Football. And then they close out the year at home against the Miami Dolphins, which at 1 o'clock, which playing in Buffalo in January. Yeah, I give that one to the Bills.
I hope it's a blizzard that day too.
Do you really? Because don't you want Allen to be able to throw the ball?
He'll still find a way to. He's going to be used to that. Tua, not so much.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean the only saving grace they would have is they put Fitzpatrick in, but he's already checked out too. Either way, I gotta say I'm happy with the Bills' progress. I can't be mad. And obviously, if you're going to be contending with the Pittsburgh Steelers, you got to be winning games like this. Mm-hmm. So let's go to our overall lock of the week.
Yeah.
Pat, break it down.
Yeah, so we all chose the Pittsburgh Steelers to defeat the Dallas Cowboys, although I think we all thought that this would be a lot bigger or wider of margin, I guess you could say. But the Pittsburgh Steelers did end up winning by the final score of 24-19. Ben Roethlisberger, 29 of 42 for 306 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Garrett Gilbert, 21 of 38 for 243 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception.
Coach, your thoughts?
My thought is I should have looked at the overall schedule and realized that this had a letdown written all over it, as they're just coming off of that big emotional win against a division rival, physical game, in Baltimore. You're riding the high of that win to then come into a bad Dallas team thinking this is going to be a cakewalk. And Dallas played a very, very good football game compared to what they've played as, especially post Dak Prescott. So really should have looked at the big picture shit instead of just seeing, ooh, Pittsburgh's undefeated playing a bad Dallas team. I'm going to jump on this. And Pittsburgh still played well down the stretch. I mean, they got Roethlisberger going later on. Dallas was daring them to throw those underneath routes, which, the big physical wide receivers that Pittsburgh has, especially Chase Claypool, who, they were able to catch these underneath routes and then make them, get first downs and then get out of bounds, late in the game were huge. And they still, for all that being said, almost let Dallas get back into the game, later on. So hats off to Dallas. This is probably the best game that they played all year, especially post Dak.
Yeah.
And, Pittsburgh undefeated still and looking good.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, definitely good win for Pittsburgh. I know some fans might be a little nervous or like, we should have won this by more. And yeah, you should have. But, with teams that go undefeated, and I'm a little familiar, there will be games in that season.
Are you?
Yeah. There will be games in those seasons where you have a run like this where you go 8-0, 9-0, 10-0, whatever it is, where things get a little close. Things get a little too close for comfort. Things don't quite go your way. I mean, the one that comes to mind for me was when the Patriots went into Baltimore on a Monday Night Football game, and if it wasn't for like a toe tap catch from Jabbar Gaffney at the end of the game, we wouldn't have won that game in Baltimore and would have lost, the undefeated
streak
record at that point. So there will be tests like this, and so far Pittsburgh is stepping up to them. We will see where things go. There was an announcement today with some of the Steelers, most notably Ben Roethlisberger getting put on the COVID-19 list. Now, whether that's if I read right, he hasn't tested positive, but he was near somebody who had it, so he's considered a high risk. But I was also reading this could be a Matt Stafford-like situation where he's on the list now, but he could end up playing by Sunday.
There's a lot of variables that could happen with the Steelers going into next week, so you just definitely got to keep your ear out for what is happening with them.
I'll tell you this much, though, and I'm not saying he will, I'm not saying he won't, but hypothetically, if Ben doesn't play this coming Sunday, they are playing the Bengals. They might lose that game.
Here's a wild stat just from personal experience. The Steelers never covered the spread after Election Day.
Really?
This is something I know personally from when I've gone out to Vegas.
I wish you would have said this.
Because early voting threw me off this year.
Okay.
But this is something, because this is usually when I would make a trip out there.
Okay.
The Steelers never cover the spread no matter who they face against.
See, because I would have chosen other differently with that.
Yeah, it hit me after. And it's just something that's clicking about this team that they should have absolutely mopped the floor with Dallas. But Dallas playing with enter name here, hung in, nearly won the game. It's a really telling sign that you just don't know what team was going to show up. And Pittsburgh I don't want to say they lost focus, but you almost have to think they did.
No, it's
a little bit. I mean, when Garrett Gilbert is lighting you up,
I just think you chalk it up to the fact that, you think you came off of a tough physical game Sunday against a division rival. And we talk about division rival games all the time.
Yeah.
And then you win that game. You're on a high. You're 8-0. You're traveling to Dallas. You see, they read the paper. They see the spread. They know what's going on. They see that they're 13.5-point favorites. And they're sitting here and they're like, this is going to be a quick game. Roethlisberger's like, shit, I might be checked out by the third quarter.
That's like when the Patriots went into Washington and they put up like 50.
Yeah, I mean that's the type of thing. I mean, players they know what's going on. So here they are. They probably took it lightly. I'm sure practice. I mean, they talked about how the defensive tackle didn't practice till Wednesday or practice till Thursday because
not good.
No, they gave him the day off. They gave him time off because they knew how physical the Baltimore game was. So the turnaround time is difficult, and all these things, all that shit, just it adds up. Then you talk about that stat where they haven't covered a spread. Post-election. I mean, all those things add up to what we got here, which was a down performance.
It's something I definitely want to research. I'm not going to say it's a fact, but I know personally, whenever I've had to go, when I've been out in Vegas during this time period, Steelers have never covered the spread, no matter who they face and how bad the teams have been.
I also know this was only the second time, I believe, since 1990. I could be wrong on the year, but I know the rest of this is true. This is also the second time since at least 1990 that Dallas have been for underdogs at home.
Yeah, it's a wild stat to think about, but for Dallas, I mean, obviously, underwhelming season continues, and McCarthy, I don't think is going to make it to the end of the year.
Dude, it's not looking promising.
No, I think he's gone. I think Anthony Lynn is safe, but I don't think McCarthy's good as gone.
I honestly, I don't understand. I know that the injuries are there and everything, but like when Jerry Jones, I think, looks at this team and he looks at the overall performance of everybody. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't understand how you don't say this is the same team we had last year. Yeah. This is the same underwhelming, underperforming team that we had last year. Now, part of this is on him for not going out. I mean, well, I guess they did. They went out and got Andy Dalton, who they thought, was going to be, a solid backup who, has also underperformed. But at the same time, you've got the offensive weapons that you do. You went out, you spent a first-round pick on CeeDee Lamb, Cooper, Gallup. The tight end's pretty good. Ezekiel Elliott got paid. So you've got the weapons offensively, and you're underperforming. I mean, 19 points is not what this team should be putting up offensively. No, they should be putting up stupid, dumb numbers.
Should be 40 a game.
Yeah, and regardless of who's at quarterback, because they should be able to get these guys open and get them in space, and they're not. And the problem is, and it's always been, the defense.
Yeah, their defense is obviously lacking, and that's the reason. It's like a typical Green Bay-led team by McCarthy.
It's exactly. That is literally it is Green Bay 2.0.
Yep.
Minus Aaron Rodgers. That's literally what this is.
Exactly, where Rodgers would make up a lot of those mistakes for him. Unfortunately, you don't have it with Dak going down in a revolving door at your quarterback position just because of injuries. It's a weird thing to watch from the outside looking in, but for Dallas, I mean, the ship is sinking badly.
I'm trying to think of, when's the last time Dallas had, a truly feared defense, and I think it was Wade Phillips. I think he was the last time.
The Jimmy Johnson era when Wade was...
No. The second time Wade was there when they had the two defensive ends, they had DeMarcus Ware and whoever, and then they had the safeties. Yep. And Sean Lee was a young Sean Lee, still in his prime, and they had the other linebacker. I mean, the names are escaping me. I mean, I've seen Dallas enough. I probably should know the names because they were dominating the Giants. In that time, Tony Romo at quarterback and stuff. But the defense was very, very good. The defense was what kept them in games. The offense would sputter, but the defense was always there. And I'm pretty sure that was Wade Phillips who was there. If Dallas fans, if you think of anybody, else, let us know.
I'm sure Dre's going to hit us up
I think there was one other defensive coordinator after Wade Phillips that they had a good year, and I'm like Nolan is popping in my head, but I don't think it was him. So I know there might have been one other season, but it's Marinelli, yes, because they ran the 3-4.
I think his first year when Marinelli was
there. So they've had solid teams. It's just I don't get it. They're just shortcomings, and they should be better. And Jerry Jones should be pissed because this defense. I mean, honest to God, Jerry should just not be the general manager.
No, but he's going to hold him back as long as he's got that position.
Yeah, he is.
They dig their grave with him. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
You want to put a good comparison to Jerry Jones, Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
Think they have a temperature for the room and have no idea what's going on.
I'll give
relying on the wonder years and the glory years of days past.
Yeah, and surrounding yourself with yes men who, because when they drafted CeeDee Lamb, I mean, he's fallen to 17, 18. Like, that's a great pickup because, I mean, I'm sure he was high on a lot of people's draft boards.
Yeah.
At the same time, you already have Gallup and Amari Cooper. And Ezekiel Elliott, did you really need to go and spend a first-round pick there? Or could you have gone and gotten one of the secondary or defensive line pieces that were available?
This was also the same owner that, let's not forget, I forget what year it was, Coach, you might remember, that when Johnny Manziel was in the draft, wanted to move heaven, hell, and the afterlife. And to get Johnny Manziel because he was super high on Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel's the second coming. He's the next great quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. Where's Johnny Manziel now?
Yeah, that might be a little nature versus nurture, though, because, I mean, he could have gone to Dallas and actually had a great career. I mean, going to Cleveland, listen, I'm a Notre Dame fan, believe it or not, and Brady Quinn going to Cleveland killed him. Deshaun Kaiser going to Cleveland killed him. These guys were solid quarterbacks that could have performed well on better teams and better circumstances and got sent to Cleveland to die.
I don't know with Manziel. I do agree with you about.
Listen, I'm not saying.
Manziel, I think, was just.
I'm just saying it could have been. It could think about that. Think about how bad those Cleveland teams that Johnny was on.
I will give you that, but I'm just saying with Manziel though, I think he's a different cat, and I think he was struggled in the NFL. Period.
All right.
No, that's just my take on it. I think he would just have struggled.
I think you pair him. At the time they had. They had Joey Galloway would have been still in his last year at Dallas. Then they had another big, Des Bryant, was his other wide receiver. They had, Jason Witten. So they had pieces there, so now you pair him with them.
Yeah.
Might have been a little bit different outcome than when he was paired with wide receiver with, who knows?
No.
Joe Thomas was their offensive tackle. That's the only all-star that I remember from those teams.
I will give you that, but like I say, I'm going to stick to my guns about this one.
All right.
I think Manziel is just a different cat. That I think that he was a great college player, but I don't think he was ever going to be a great pro.
But at the end of the day, though, our assessment of Jerry Jones doesn't have a feel for the room is 100%.
Oh, that's
correct.
fact. That's fact. You can't argue that.
Because, again, there was defensive players that were taken late in that first round that easily could have been where they took CeeDee Lamb, or, they could have traded down and still landed somebody. And, no, they opted for CeeDee Lamb, which, listen, he torched the Giants that week. 186 yards.
Sure.
That's a great, he's going to be worth the investment. But at the same time, it's like you need pieces defensively, and you didn't get them.
Yeah, it's just something that Dallas has lacked this sense of the room for many, many years, and it's coming back to haunt them now because 2-7 in a winnable division. Let's face it, they can still win this thing.
They're still in it.
They're still in it, which is just wild to say.
Yeah.
They still have a lot of work to do, and I don't think they're going to get it done. I just don't.
Well, and just shout out to Jim Nantz for the funniest line of the weekend when they had the blimp shot of AT&T Stadium, saying, "Oh, some like to call it Jerry World, or as other people like to call it, the house that Tony Romo built," which got a laugh out of me.
Yeah, they said something. He said something else because this is obviously many of times that Pittsburgh's traveled there, and he made another reference to Tony. He was like, "Yeah, the last time Pittsburgh was here, the Dallas team was led by this guy who was a quarterback. He was all right, the Tony Romo guy." And it was funny because on the flip side of that, I obviously watch a lot of Fox, and you got to hear Troy Aikman and Joe Buck, and you just hear the fucking
back in my day. This is how we would have done it.
All you hear is that, and Troy, what would you have done? Back in the Dallas days against a team like this, and it's like, shut up.
No,
Tony. Oh man,
Romo's
so
great.
Good.
Romo's great in the booth.
Fuck.
So let's wrap this week up with a quick roundup, 2-minute drill. Coach?
Sure. Well, the Giants are going to win the NFC East. They are the best 2-7 team you've ever seen in the NFL history. I don't understand how or what this team is because that defense put on. And I get it. Washington offense isn't great, but that defense played lights out. Mm-hmm. You could have plugged them in against a lot of other mid-level teams. I want to see that defense play Philly next week. I want you literally just to pick up and move that team into the Dallas game because they will rock Philly. They will dominate that game. I will take the Giants and take the under because the Giants defensively are going to dominate the shit out of them. They are very good defensive. Leonard Williams, I apologize for every mean comment I ever said about you.
Wow.
Because I said a lot of mean things.
Wow, yeah, you did.
I said a lot of mean things, and I'm sorry. And you're going to leave in free agency now, and Gettleman might have been right. I said it.
Oh, my God.
I said it.
Who is this?
Listen, it's a contract year, so maybe Leonard Williams is chasing money right now, and he sees the green in front of him. But, I'm just saying, he's played very well. And Blake Martinez, kudos to you, sir. I knew that Green Bay signing was going to be huge, but he's leading the NFL in tackles. He's got like 85 tackles. The dude's all over the place, fucking covering the entire field, covering wide receivers, covering tight ends, sacking quarterbacks, sacking the run, tackling the running back. I mean, this dude is a man possessed. What a great sign that was. And then, the secondary, James Bradbury, Gettleman, again. So you got 2 out of me. Might have been right there too, because James Bradbury is a dangerous cornerback. You know how many times they targeted him in the Washington game? Once. They threw 1 pass to James Bradbury. 1. That's insane. That is Darrelle Revis. That is Deion Sanders. That is like that elite of a cornerback type numbers. And he got cut in Carolina. They threw at him once. That's nuts. That's wild. That's insane. Like, you don't hear that anymore. You never hear of a corner, all right, we're game planning to avoid this man. Even when the other corner sucks. I mean, yeah, the wide barrier, Yebaram, who was an undrafted free agent, is bad. But, like, to only target a guy 1 time, kudos to you, James Bradbury.
It's going to be an interesting offseason for the Giants.
Well, I mean, now that they're out of this Trevor Lawrence thing and they're going to win the division, yeah, it's going to be real weird. I don't know. They're going to be picking like 15th, and I don't know what the hell they're going to do.
Yeah, I don't know exactly where you go from here.
But we'll have a sweet NFC crown to hang, and NFC East banner to hang, which will be awesome because, those are sweet. Those count, right? Yeah. I mean, people still like those.
This is facts.
This is all facts. A first-round playoff exit is cool, too. I like those. Yeah. I've seen them plenty, I get it.
Yeah. Got to talk about the New Orleans Saints putting the absolute whooping.
Oh, my God.
On the Buccaneers. Final score 38-3. Shout out to Sean Payton and the amazing dance skills he put on in the locker room after the game. If you have not seen that video, look that up. That is incredible.
Dude, I almost switched, too, because Aaron and I were talking before the game about that pick, and I was like, I don't know. I might switch to Tampa Bay. And then, I saw the all-whites, the unis, and I'm like, I'm sticking with the Saints.
Yeah, no, worst loss in Tom Brady's career. 209 yards passing, no touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Running game had absolutely jack shit going for it. Ronald Jones, the second, was their leading rusher, 3 carries for 9 yards. Receiving game was all right, nothing special. 4 catches, 64 yards from Mike Evans. Chris Godwin, 3 catches for 41 yards, no touchdowns. Leonard Fournette had 6 catches for 41 yards, no touchdowns.
How'd that Antonio Brown play?
3 catches for 31 yards, no touchdowns. Are the Buccaneers overrated?
Yes.
Because let's face it, this is a team playing Madden with the budget turned off and forced trades turned on. The fact that you have some of the most elite receivers of this generation in Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, say what you will about his character, he is a very good wide receiver.
Sure.
When his head's screwed on straight.
Gronk.
They've got Gronkowski, who is one of the best, if not the best, tight end of all time. You can have that conversation until you're blue in the face.
I will, because he's not. But, Cameron Brate.
But so
Howard.
Yeah, I mean, then you flip to the stats. Okay, in total offensive stats, they're middle of the pack with 3,141 total offensive yards. They're middle of the pack in terms of passing yards per game. They're middle of the pack in terms of rushing yards a game. They're middle of the pack in terms of receiving yards, and then they're middle of the pack in terms of first downs. Like, for all of the offensive weaponry, Andy, my God. They go 5 wide. Who are you going to cover? They're not playing well.
They're not playing well. Tom Brady looks like the 42-year-old that we thought he was.
Mm-hmm.
He's having that fall off that Peyton was doing his last year in Denver. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say, I said it earlier this season. I'm sticking to my guns about it.
He's looking 43.
He's looking 43. He is not the Tom Brady that was in Foxborough all those years. Father Time has caught up to him. He'll win you some games, and he'll have some moments of brilliance.
Sure.
So did Peyton his last year, too. But this team is not doing it. I'm sorry, Bruce Arians calling him out after the game.
Yeah.
The dysfunction you're seeing with this team is horrendous.
Can we also talk about why Bruce Arians can't wear the fucking power pack around the waist? Like, what is that? Why has he got to wear it like a seatbelt? It's fucking obnoxious to look at. I mean, he's obnoxious to look at. He is now my second least favorite person in all of football, to Dabo Sweeney, which we will get into next. But, dude, I fucking see this man, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm just.
I mean, I just think this. Did it hurt to see him go? Yeah, but maybe this was just another instance, and maybe I should have remembered, where Patriots have let longtime players go, and they're just not what they were when they were in New England. And maybe you can chalk it up to a different system and whatever. But you look at back when Richard Seymour was with the Patriots, and he had a very good career. Left, never quite the same as when he left, and then the other one that jumps to mind was, he had,
Lawyer Malloy did the same thing when they cut him.
What was it, Deion Branch, never quite the same, and then, got the interception in the Super Bowl against the Seahawks, Malcolm Butler. Oh. Malcolm Butler had that great interception, had that great performance in the Super Bowl against the Seahawks, got benched in the Super Bowl against the Falcons, I want to say it was. And then he's left and never really quite as, lived up to the magic and the luster of what he put on in that Super Bowl. Maybe this is just another instance of, they wanted to keep him. Yeah, they didn't want to give him quite necessarily the amount of dollars he wanted, but maybe they saw the writing on the wall, as they have in the past with former players, that he's just not the same, and they let him go.
I will give the Devils their due every time. Belichick and his team evaluate talent like nobody else. The fact that they got rid of Brady, and obviously this season has been the underlying story of who's going to get to the playoffs first, New England or Tampa Bay. Belichick is smelling like a rose here.
I'll say Tom Brady, for his stats, he has 2,398 yards passing, which something's got to be wrong on the ESPN site because it's saying it's 150 plus, so that can't really tell where he is place-wise there. Touchdowns, he has 20, which is tied for 17th. He's got 7 interceptions, which again, it says 150 plus, so whatever the hell that means. And then QBR is 67.4, which is good for 16th.
It just goes to show that obviously Father Time has caught up to him, and there's no shame in saying that.
No.
The problem is when everybody is saying that Tampa Bay was supposed to run away with this, and you can't even make it out of your own division.
Everyone was crowning them Super Bowl champs.
Yeah, we didn't crown them. I said they were going to make the wild card, and I still think they could, but they're not going to make it to the Super Bowl. They're not going to get anywhere close. This team lives and dies by Tom Brady, and if you are talking about a guy that is forced to get into a shootouts with the likes of Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, it's not going to end pretty at this stage of the game.
No, I think if you talk about a team that has defensive ends and a defensive presence that can rush the passer, they're done for.
Oh, yeah.
Because he can't move.
Because the blueprint for how to beat him was set years ago by the New York Giants. Mm-hmm. And the team has not, the team has changed, but the method to beat him has not changed. Blitz the absolute shit out of him, and you'll give him fits all day. We've seen it. He's just not looking the same. The ball doesn't have the same zip. He can't throw it as far as he used to. Yeah. And when two of your primary offensive weapons are run deep and catch it, kind of not going to work out all that well.
No, it's not going to work out in your favor, and this is where you're starting to see the house crumbling a little bit.
I'll say, because currently they are the number 5 seed in the NFC conference, and Arizona is the 6th, so I believe they'd be playing Arizona. You know what? If it came down to it, I could see Arizona pulling that one out.
I could too. It just depends on what Brady you get and if he has one more flash of brilliance. But let's face it, he's had some good games this year, some being the key word.
Yeah.
Consistency has definitely not been in the equation.
Let me put it this way. If Chandler Jones were playing for Arizona,
he'd be in trouble.
And I'd skew that meter a little towards Arizona's side just because he'd give Brady fits all damn day.
Yeah.
But since Chandler's not playing for Arizona, it's kind of closer to 50-50.
This is a situation where Tampa Bay is getting exposed, and the fact that you're seeing Arians' comments, which, like I say, yet again, mind-blowing that you want to just throw this on your $50 million quarterback who is still guaranteed money, whether he wants to play next year or not. All signs are pointing to trouble here, and this loss was a bad loss. And definitely next week, I don't know if Tampa Bay is going to bounce back. You would imagine they would. They'd have something left in the tank for it, but they are not going to be putting up any statement wins anytime soon. I'm sorry. When you lose this badly to your rivals, and this is the benchmark that they are set against too.
Sure.
In the NFC South, you need to beat New Orleans. New Orleans has been the standard there for how long now? You need to beat them, and if you're not beating them, guess what? It doesn't matter what you're going to do, because you're eventually going to have to run into them in the playoffs at some point.
Well, so here's the next upcoming 3 games, because they have a bye week in Week 13. Their next game is in Carolina this coming Sunday. The line on this, and this is very telling, is Tampa Bay by 4.5.
Oh, that dropped.
Yikes.
The week after they're staying at home and they're playing the LA Rams, where there is no line as of yet. But then in week 12 which I can fully see this getting flexed in this Sunday Night Football. Week 12, they are at home against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, that'll get flexed just for the names. That'll get flexed. Tampa Bay is in trouble. That's the easiest. That's the easiest takeaway from it. But for New Orleans, they're looking like Super Bowl contenders. You can't say they're not. They came in there. They looked the part. How they go forward is anybody's guess.
Sean Payton's got the best dance moves in the NFL.
They capped off a wild weekend of NFL action, so definitely hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. What was your thoughts about Week 9 in the NFL? We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Are you tired of watching the same old awesome movies? Are B-movies more your style? Then the folks over at They Call This a Movie have you covered. Join us every Thursday as we review the worst of the worst in sci-fi, action, comedy, and more. We are available on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and Podbean at theycalledthisamovie.podbean.com. They Called This a Movie, testing the strength of friendships, one terrible movie at a time.
Hi, this is Tyler from Second Suitor, and you're listening to the ODPH podcast. I want you to get it. I want you to understand. I'm doing the best I can, but not as good as I want to be. I just want to get it. I just want to comprehend that I have to make amends.
Coming back for segment number 2 on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and we have to give Coach his due.
I'm honored. I'm speechless, Ken. Thank you.
Yes, this is the Notre Dame that we were talking about earlier. So, Coach, we are going to let you talk college football. The floor is yours.
Well, I mean, there was only one thing that I particularly want to talk about, and that was, the number 1 team in the nation, Clemson, coming into Notre Dame. One of the big, matchups in college football history. With a team that number 1 coming into a top 5 opponent, in Notre Dame. So, they've had these games before, whether it was Miami, Florida State, Alabama. They've had these big-time games, Georgia, a few years ago. So the USC, in 05, which definitely has, imprinted in my brain. But, Notre Dame has these type of games. That's why kids go to, Notre Dame to play in these kind of games. And, Pad, go ahead and do the stats like you would normally.
Yeah, so Notre Dame ended up winning the game by a final score of 47-40. Ian Book had 22 of 39 for 310 yards passing, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. DJ, I won't even attempt that last name.
Oh, I fucking practice in the car. Ui Agalai.
Sure. Had 29 of 44 for 439 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions.
So this game obviously had a lot of underlying moments going on. Obviously,
people waiting for it to get over so they could watch Saturday Night Live.
That was
sure.
up there
Because
as well.
this game ran till what, like 11,
4. So let me take you on a journey, guys.
Sure.
Let me take you on my night. Because
Do we have to give the sounder the warning?
No.
Okay.
This will be all right. This will be. So watching this game, I mean, I dubbed it the all hands on deck game in the Duffy household. This was a big deal. So the first quarter, Notre Dame gets possession of the ball, and Kyron Williams breaks, like a 40-yard run to go up 7-0. And I initially was like, holy shit, Notre Dame is in this game. They are in it, because that was not happening in the 30-3 loss that Notre Dame had to Clemson in the Sugar Bowl, a few years ago. So I was like, holy shit, they're in this game. Like, this is a reality. Mm-hmm. And then, they go down, and they have a few possessions where, they kick field goals. And much to your Buffalo Bills friend, I was saying they got to score touchdowns. Because you can't, go and have a team here and settling for 3 points, because ultimately they're going to be able to break it, and they're going to score touchdowns. So, ultimately that is kind of what happened here. And Clemson did kind of crawl their way back into the game. And all of a sudden, now it's, it's a game, and we go into the second half, and Notre Dame lets their foot off the gas a little bit. Ian Book has a soul-crushing and well, I guess I should backtrack because, then all of a sudden, they announced midway in the beginning of the game that Biden's going to be given a presser and the game's going to be moving to USA. So I was in a panic because I was like, when is this going to be happening? So, NBC did a tremendous job, though, of coverage. So kudos to them. I will get into something else that happened, though, later on. So then Clemson, anyway, get back on it, comes back in the game, and now they're winning. And Ian Book has a soul-crushing turnover that I was like, Notre Dame's going to Notre Dame. That's what they're going to do. This is this team. This is exactly what this team is. They just, in big moments, come up short. I'm thinking back to the Reggie Bush push. I'm thinking back to the Clemson loss. I'm thinking back to the Alabama loss. I'm like, the wheels are going to come off here. But the defense, they hunkered down. They settled for 3 after that turnover. Or actually, they punted on that, which then Notre Dame, gave Notre Dame the opportunity to come back. And ultimately, push this game to overtime by an absolutely tremendous drive by Ian Book that left me off my feet. I was screaming. Thank God I didn't wake up any of my kids. I was shocked. Ian Book to Avery Davis to tie the game. Ultimately then going to overtime and winning the game, on a hell of a throw by Book to Avery Davis again. And, Notre Dame pulls out a win. Credit to, the Notre Dame team. I mean, Kyron Williams played a lights-out performance as a running back. Clemson, and their defensive coordinator, they're known for pressure, for blitzing and throwing all sorts of different kind of blitzes. And Notre Dame's offensive line, let's face it, is one of the best offensive lines in the nation. That's what, Notre Dame's done for the last 10 years, from McGlinchey to Quentin Nelson to Ronnie Stanley. I mean, there's some stupid stat out there that Notre Dame offensive linemen in the NFL right now are making over $200 million in the NFL right now. So they're paid.
Yeah, well, they're obviously stepping up when they get to the big game. So, I mean, that's the thing. When you are leaving college, you definitely want to carry on and progress.
Yeah, and
Notre Dame's been turning them out for all.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they do. And so these guys played a great game. But Kyron Williams picked up the blitzes. And, I mean, there was times that he absolutely got obliterated in picking up the blitz. But what he did when that happened was Notre Dame, he picked up the blitz, and the guy blitzing him wrecked himself by crashing into him because Kyron Williams was basically just a crash test dummy.
Yep.
Just hit me, And they were able to give Ian Book time and space. And, to me, I think Ian Book put himself in a position where, he might not be the sexy quarterback, with all the stats, but the guy's a winner. And I think he's put himself in a pretty good draft position. And I can't even begin to go into the emotions that I had, especially in the second half of this game and late in the fourth quarter, because I was on pins and needles. There was an offensive pass or a defensive pass interference call, which I don't know if you guys saw any of the highlights, but a corner jumped Skoranik's back and basically pushed him down. They threw the flag, right? Everybody's like, all right, pass interference, thank God. First down Notre Dame. This is late in the game. This is a third quarter. This was a 3rd and 10 when they needed a first down. They threw the flag in front of Dabo Swinney's and the Clemson bench. Dabo Swinney throws a temper tantrum. They pick the flag up and called it no pass interference. And the Notre Dame podcast that I like to listen to, and they made a really good point here is how do you throw the flag and then pick it up just because you're doing it in front of the Clemson bench? That's egregious. That is bad refereeing. You have to call it.
No, I agree with you.
Throw the flag, you have to call it, especially when a corner plays the ball through a wide receiver's back. That's the definition of pass interference. So that got no called. So I just, I was, oh my God, it is just a mess. And then, credit goes to Notre Dame's defense because they held Travis Etienne, who is one of the best running backs in the nation, going to be a top 10 pick for sure. This kid is a game-changing running back from the pass plays to the running the ball. They held him 27 yards.
And obviously, no Trevor Lawrence.
Now, listen. Go ahead, throw that asterisk out there. We can get into that conversation.
No, because my question was,
sure,
if Trevor Lawrence was in this game, how do you think the game would have been?
I think in all honesty, in all honesty, I've played the scenario through my head because what they were still able to do, and DJ Ugalele is a very good freshman quarterback, and Trevor Lawrence was also a very good freshman quarterback. So I don't think it's fair to tag this as, well, they were playing a freshman quarterback because this freshman quarterback happens to be one of the best rated offensive quarterbacks in the nation in the last 10 years since Trevor Lawrence, So, I mean, to obviously Trevor Lawrence, a sophomore, junior, the potential of the game could have been different. But what I will say is Notre Dame beat them up in the trenches. In the offensive line, the defensive line, Notre Dame was just more physical than them. So while Trevor Lawrence may have been able to make more plays and the game plan may have changed because his arms would have been, I still think Notre Dame wins this game.
Coach, I'm glad you're sitting down. I actually agree with you.
Yeah? All right.
No, I think that from the highlights I saw from this, because obviously I was on Twitch during the game.
Sure.
Notre Dame beat them up in the trenches. And I think that
physical.
I have not seen Notre Dame get that physical in a long time.
Nope.
They rose to the occasion for this one. That I thought, even with Trevor Lawrence being out, listen, anytime that you have a top-tier program, you're going to have a backup that's just as good as your starter.
Exactly.
So you can't exactly rely on, well, Trevor Lawrence was out of this. Because I know that was the narrative that was going around. Listen, Clemson is loaded with talent.
Sure.
Alabama is loaded with talent. Ohio State is loaded with talent. So it's always next man up with those programs.
Exactly.
So for anybody that was saying, well, it's a difference, it is, but it isn't.
Right.
And obviously the game would have gone maybe a little different, like maybe a couple different choices would have happened.
Right. Some offensive play calls would have been different. Notre Dame's game plan of maybe focusing on ETN wouldn't have been the same. But that's what Clark Lee, who is the Notre Dame defensive coordinator, has always done. It's always been he has the mantra of I'm going to choose what you're going to do. Mm-hmm. So if they focus on stopping the run, they're going to stop the run.
Yeah.
And Trevor Lawrence may have thrown for 400, 500 yards, but you better bet ETN wasn't going to get his. And that was the old, that's almost, if you want to compare it to basketball, how, people used to stop the Lakers.
Yeah.
We're going to let Shaq go off. You're going to get 50 tonight, Shaq, but Kobe's only going to get 15 or 20. And he's going to have to shoot a lot to get there. And that's what Clark Lee does. I'm not going to let Travis Etienne beat us, but I'm going to let DJ Ugali or Trevor Lawrence throw for 400 yards. That's fine. I'll accept that. We'll take that L. But you're not going to get to run the ball tonight, and that's exactly what they did.
I thought it was a perfect game plan for him. And obviously I knew with the Trevor Lawrence thing that obviously everyone was going, oh, well, that's a big difference.
Yeah.
Look, it is, but this isn't the pros.
Right.
Where if you take out the starting quarterback and you're stuck with a backup that's been holding a clipboard forever, it's a little bit of difference.
I think if this game would the margin of victory by Notre Dame would have been further apart, you could have that conversation.
Yeah.
But let's face it, Clemson still fucking put up 40, which that's nothing against Notre Dame.
No, not at all.
But the fact that you had DJ Ugalele, or however you say his name, come in on maybe a week's practice.
He played Boston College the week before.
Comes in and puts up 40. I think you can't really have that conversation. Like, yeah, you can sit there and wonder, and that's the fun thing to do, but I think you can really have the conversation, really look at it, were it like more than a 7-point win.
Yeah, I mean, this is just something that you have to go on figuring out, because this has been the history of college football.
Yeah.
That you always had quarterback debates. Like, obviously, let's throw to Alabama when you had Hurts and Tua.
Right.
Obviously, that was a highly contested debate.
And Tua was a freshman when he came in and won that national title,
Right. So that's just the most recent example I can come up with, that you've had a quarterback come in and play well and almost won the game for him. I mean, let's face it, this game is a lot closer than we're probably making it sound a little bit, but this goes to show that
this was a highly contested game. Don't get that twisted.
Yeah, no, but this was definitely not a runaway game. But for Notre Dame to step up and punch him in the mouth, that's the telling story to me.
Yeah.
Like, that was something I honestly, Coach, I did not think they were capable of, and they mashed them. And when you shut down Travis, that was a big, big win.
So my favorite thing, and I just heard this actually driving over on that show, was another one of the sports writers that works the beat for Notre Dame was talking about how a friend of a friend was watching the game and he's blind, so he has to hear, or he's deaf. I'm sorry. So he's reading the captions and everything, but at one point he saw Travis Etienne go up to Dabo Swinney and say to them, "They're hitting us too fucking hard."
Yeah, when
quote unquote, so when you have a big physical running back going over and saying that these guys are hitting us, and they're too physical, That's mental.
Yeah,
you know,
you
and
mentally
that's
break 'em.
Yeah, and that's exactly what this Notre Dame team. And I mean, that's what's so fun. I mean, they were lining up in the I formation, which you haven't seen, you know, a lot, especially in college football anymore. And you know, Tommy Tremble, you know, a tight end who was playing H-back basically too. You know, going in and looking like his run blocking has been a lot of talk. Been the talk of the nation as far as college football because he searches for he searches for that block. Mm-hmm. He wants that lead block. You know, blow up a hole and break Kyron Williams for a big run or Sebo Flemister, you know, and it's been a lot of fun to watch. And now I'm sitting here, guys, and this is dangerous because I got a lot of hope.
Yeah.
And that is very fucking dangerous for me because funny story from the night, you know, we were throwing my in-laws were throwing a party for my daughter the next day for getting her black belt. 10 years old, getting her black belt, everybody. It's crazy.
Congrats.
Yeah. And so she was over there helping them prep for the party, and she didn't want to come home. Because, you know, at the time, Notre Dame was up, and she's like, all right, I'm going to stay away. You know, they're up. I'm not going to get in his way. And then when they were losing, then she was like, oh, now I'm definitely not coming home because my house is probably smashed to bits, which I was calm for the most part. Like, I was cool. I was collected. And then when they won, you know, jumping for joy, the fucking energy that was rushing through me, I felt like one of the college kids rushing on the field from my house, you know, from my living room. I was off my couch. I was hugging my TV. I wanted to sing the alma mater. I mean, I was losing my mind. You have no idea. Like, the hope right now is dangerous because if it's a letdown, I'm going to be broken again. And I can't do that anymore. Like, this is the first time I'm like genuinely thinking, like, even with that Manti Te'o team in 12 when they played Alabama, I was like, fuck, Alabama. And then when they had that run with Clemson when I first joined the show, and I'm like, yeah, I think they can beat this Clemson team. Like, even then in the back of my mind, I was like, fuck, there's no way. But now this year, I'm really like, they got a shot.
It's not out of the realm of thought.
So they're currently ranked number 2 in the nation. That is in both the AP and the coaches poll. They got Boston College coming up this weekend, where currently, as we record, Notre Dame is 13.5-point favorites.
Yeah, the hope is scary because that's when I start to like really, I'm like, oh my God. Because now I'm thinking, all right, they have to play Clemson one more time in the ACC title game potentially unless Clemson has a slip up. Notre Dame still has to first off, they have to get through North Carolina and finish the rest of the season out. Then if they get to the ACC title game, potentially have to play Clemson again. You know, what if Clemson beats them and all of a sudden the committee fucking like does something wacky and they bump Notre Dame down to 5 and they put 2 SEC teams in. So now the paranoia kicks in. You know, now, you know, then, all right, let's say Notre Dame gets in at 2, you know, and Alabama stays undefeated and wins the SEC. So dreams, you know, this is the perfect scenario. Alabama wins the SEC, Notre Dame wins the ACC, Ohio State wins the Big Ten, and then 4th is fill in the blank. Yeah. Now, you know, it's going to be a household divided. I got to deal with that bullshit with my wife because she's an Ohio State fan. Notre Dame's already lost to Ohio State in the Fiesta Bowl. I had to hear that for 9 months, you know, until the following football season. So now they're going to be in a playoff game where if Notre Dame wins, I'm going to have to hear it again for another year. I can't handle that, guys. I can't deal with that. That's what I'm afraid of. That's what I want to avoid. I would much rather Notre Dame be 1 and have to play like Georgia at 4. You know, something like that. But it's the hope. If they win a national title, I legitimately, I mean, it might be morbid to say this, but I could die happy. That's all I've wanted. That's all I've ever needed. I just need Notre Dame to win a national title.
Well, it's not out of the realm of thought because, I mean, obviously looking at the top 6 of the AP here, my beloved Gators are at number 6 with a 4-1 record. Texas A&M is at 5-1 at number 5. Clemson dropped to 4, being 7-1. Ohio State is 3-0 at 3. Notre Dame is at 2, 7-0, and Alabama's at 1 with 6-0 record. So I mean, it's not out of the realm of thought, but you just got to put together some wins, and then you got to just win that division outright.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy to think that Notre Dame's been playing football since 1887, and they're 7-0 in conference play.
Yeah.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be here all week.
Yes, you will.
They've been independent, everybody. That's the joke if you don't know.
Yeah.
And this is their first year full-fledged ACC. So, but yeah, and outside of that, taking myself, you know, removing myself as the Notre Dame fan, that football game was pure. That was pure college football. I mean, if you like college football and and with everything from the spread, you know, if you're not, you know, if you don't like the spread offenses and all that stuff, but, you know, this was pure. This was football at its finest. This was 2 elite teams coached by very good coaches, even though I fucking do not like Dabo Swinney. the two elite coaches, four elite offensive and defensive coordinators, and players playing at the most elite level, that it was pure. You don't get that outside the SEC.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you get the Georgia-Alabama matchups, you get the Alabama-Florida. This was the first time the ACC's really had two teams that are elite at this level, that it was magic. You know, it was literally the ups and downs, the win probability changes, the atmosphere being in Notre Dame. I mean, it was magical. It's what college football, desperately needed this season with everything that's going on. And you know what? With everything that is going on, it was a moment that, you could suspend everything else that's going on in the world. Mm-hmm. And that was much needed, at least for me it was. I mean, for people who don't like college football, you're probably not going to like this game, but it was magical. It was pure.
It's one of those things when sports hit, and obviously with everything going on, you need a break. And this is one that if your team is in a moment that they haven't been in before and they pull something off that is unexpected, and let's face it,
It was.
Yeah,
Notre Dame was dogs.
It's one of those games that just stands out in your minds, and you always remember where you were at that moment. I mean, that's why we always talk about sports. That's why we do a sports podcast.
And the other thing that I was livid about, and I mean, I can wrap up with this, was as the game goes into overtime, NBC locally.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Cut coverage.
Yeah.
To go to whatever show they air.
I think it was like paid programming.
It's some stupid like investment show where they talk to athletes and celebrities about their investments that they've made.
Yeah.
So here I'm sitting here like coming down, right? Like I'm unwinding a little bit, kind of like in wrestling, when you have that lull. So here I'm coming down. All right, we're going to overtime. Okay, they're going to be able to pull this out. And I'm just, the TV's there and it's just noise. I'm like, all right, I'm just waiting for overtime. Who wins the coin toss? What happens? And I don't even notice the TV. And then all of a sudden I look up and it's like 5 minutes into this program. And I'm like, wait, this isn't a commercial.
Yeah.
This is coming on. This is airing right now.
Yeah.
This is on. Where's the Notre Dame game?
That was a local thing for us, yeah.
Complete panic.
Yeah.
Complete panic. Chaos. Erin's pulling up her phone trying to find the game. I'm trying to find the phone. I'm trying to find my phone. I don't even know where my phone is. I'm trying to find my NBC app on my Apple TV. Complete, absolute panic. I come on to the game finally with Clemson having the first play of overtime reviewed because it might have been a potential score.
Yeah.
And now, heart rate, 1,000, I'm like pumping. I'm like, wait, what I miss? What I miss? Oh no, my NBC app won't let me sign in, so it won't even let me view the game without having the little blimp up there. And then finally, the game got put back on TV. So my father-in-law and I talked about the next day. It was a la Super Bowl III when Joe Namath was making the comeback, and they put Pepe or that old movie back on, and they removed the Super Bowl, so nobody got to see on the East Coast the the drive,
comeback.
The comeback. So that was a highlight.
I ran into that too, just because I was hanging out at home and I figured I hadn't seen the score or anything, but I figured I'd check out the game. And that was when I decided to turn over. That was when I decided, and I knew it was on NBC. I was like, all right, let's go check out. And I go, what the hell? I'm like, oh, maybe the game's over. So I go look at my phone. I pull up the ESPN app and look at the score, and it says in progress, or it gave the overtime, and then the time was moving. And I'm like, where the hell's the game? So I saw your post about it flipping to NBC, or your text about it switching to USA. So I'm like, maybe it stayed on USA.
Yeah.
Flipped over to USA. They were showing like a movie or something. I'm like, okay, maybe it's on NBC Sports.
Yep.
Flip over to that. It was like poker or something.
Dude,
I'm like, where the hell is it?
You're literally. I've checked NBC. I checked MSNBC. I checked CNN. I checked all the affiliations of NBC. I checked each and every single one of them while flipping through the programs, trying to see where the game might have gotten moved to. Ultimately, just to be like, NBC, local NBC, just dropped the ball.
I think you're going to have to sign up for Peacock just to make sure you got a back purchase.
Dude, I did not look there. That was the one thing I didn't think about. But I have the NBC Sports app, so I was like, all right, I'll at least check there. And I did find it. But, yeah, it was a panic.
But an incredible story nevertheless, and a huge win for Notre Dame. to close out last weekend's big college football game day. But we have to kind of do some late-breaking news here as we are recording. There has been some changes in the schedule this week, Pat?
Yeah, so the SEC announced today as we record that they are calling off Saturday's Alabama LSU and then the Texas A&M Tennessee games as a result of COVID-19 testing depleting the Tigers and Aggies available rosters. This is, of course, on the heels of Monday's decision to postpone the Auburn-Mississippi State game because the Bulldogs are having similar issues with positive test results and contact tracing. All three, this is from an article on ESPN, all three games have been deemed postponements. Texas A&M, Tennessee, and Auburn, Mississippi State are tentatively rescheduled for the December 12th open date. LSU already has a game rescheduled that date against the Florida Gators. So the SEC said in a statement that, quote, the opportunity to reschedule the Alabama at LSU game will need to be evaluated, and that the rescheduling of games on the remaining SEC football schedule may include December 19th as a playing date.
So stay tuned for that, because there's going to be some moving and shaking going on this past week, or for this coming week of the college football season. But definitely hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. What was your thoughts about the big Notre Dame Clemson game? And what is your thoughts moving forward for your team going into the Bowl Championship Series? We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Greetings, henchmen and loyal subjects. I am Evan the Great.
And I'm JVD. We're your hosts of the Fictional Battle Podcast, Crossover Collision, brought to you by the Villains Demand.
If you love hearing in-depth breakdowns of your favorite characters and what they are capable of doing while fighting in random battlegrounds against other fan favorites, then this is the podcast for you.
New episodes drop every Friday wherever you listen to your favorite podcast or over on thevillansdemand.com.
Hey, this is Brian Wolf from Fair City Fire. You are listening to ODPH, the greatest podcast in Binghamton.
Woo!
Hot lips touching, cool thighs breathing, shawty running up, her spine spinning, long day to a long night, but I'm not stopping till I get it right.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and time to run the ropes, talk some pro wrestling.
Wrestling.
So this past weekend was AEW's Full Gear pay-per-view from Daly's Place in Jacksonville. Obviously, we've been following twitch.tv/607 podcast. You saw the live reaction from Rich from 3FN, Crazy Curtis Gaming, and myself watching the event, and dare I say, it was better than expected.
Oh, that's good.
Sure.
I will say that. So we're going to recap the event, breaking down the results. So the buy-in was switched around a little bit. I mean, that's what they do for the pre-show.
Okay.
And the first match was for the NWA Women's World Championship, and it's Allison Kay making her debut.
Okay.
She just got signed, facing champion Serena Deeb. So this match was nothing really to write home about. It was a good match, very technical at times, and Deeb wound up winning. And at the end, former champion Thunder Rosa came out to kind of set up their storyline moving forward. So this has been something they've been slowly building. They've been borrowing a lot from other organizations, and I'm going to get into this going into the next match. But they have a very close-knit working relationship, it appears, with the NWA women's or NWA organization, especially with the women's division.
Okay.
So obviously, Deeb has been defending the belt a little bit. Thunder Rosa was defending on the AEW programming as well. So they're kind of continuing this moving forward. So a good match to start out. I mean, nothing really to write home about, but definitely it was worthwhile watching.
Yeah.
They opened the show, though, with Kenny Omega versus Hangman Adam Page. And what's noteworthy about this, and what I'm saying about working with other organizations, Don Callis was introduced.
Saw that.
As, obviously, he's the vice president of Impact Wrestling, and he was on commentary, which I thought was a little crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, but I know he's very good friends with Kenny Omega. So I just think it's kind of odd that you would name him and let him come on commentary.
Well, especially with the history of Impact Wrestling and the Young Bucks, because there's a lot of tension there from their days. So, really interesting to see that they'd be willing to give them such cred on their show. Yeah,
I think for me though, under the regime of Callis and Scott D'Amore, I think that a lot of that tension maybe has gone away a little bit since it's been switched over. I think that was more of like the Dixie Carter era.
Right.
But to see Callis on there was still wild.
Yeah.
I was like, are you kidding me?
Especially with the not working relationship, but the I don't know, wink wink, nod nod, type deal that they've had with WWE, for the last, I don't know, 5 years ish.
It appears
that Don would be so willing to go on AEW television.
Yeah. It was a wild scenario to see, but it kind of makes sense, obviously, with the history with Kenny Omega, so we're going to have to watch that moving forward.
Yeah.
But we got to get back to this match. And, Pad, you got the result?
Yeah, so Kenny Omega ended up defeating Adam Page via pinfall, and the list of the goes because I always like these little stats. The duration of this match was 16 minutes and 3 seconds.
And it definitely went back and forth. Like, we had the return of the cleaner. So I did like seeing that because, obviously, as Coach just touched upon, is that we are now in the year of Omega.
Hashtag.
The year of Omega. I mean, I was following the TDE Wrestling Twitter page that does the little GIFs of, wrestling. So I was following that, a little bit here and there just to see some of the results. And, yeah, I mean, the action looked great. I don't know the ins and outs, but, I mean, there was a couple good spots that looked fun. And you knew those two were going to put on a great match. I mean, Hangman's really, kind of come into his own from his, young boy days of ROH, especially once he went under with the Bullet Club and the Bucks, you really saw a maturation in him. And obviously, hey, Kenny Omega was arguably one of the greatest wrestlers in North America, let alone the world at one point. And, he kind of let himself become secondary, to this growth of AEW to the detriment of his career. So to see him come back as a cleaner and win this match, sign me up. Yeah,
no, this definitely built into what they've been working on because this whole storyline has been slow burning.
Yeah,
which is great.
Yeah,
and to talk about like where Adam Page started being
a little slow plotted, but yeah.
Being very, forced into the role of being a face of AEW maybe before he was ready per se, you could argue. I mean, for me, as Coach touched upon, he came through Ring of Honor and really worked his way up and became a member of the Bullet Club, and that was where he really took off.
Yep.
And to see where he is now, that he is one of the young faces in AEW that's going to be one of their cornerstones with MJF moving forward, this was a big profile match for him. It definitely delivered. And Kenny Omega looked great. I mean, he looked like the Kenny Omega of old that we have been waiting to see since he came over from AEW. So he is now locked and loaded for a world title shot to be determined.
Yep.
So we're going to kind of have to wait and see on that. Next up, though, Pat?
You had Orange Cassidy defeat John Silver via pinfall in 9 minutes and 46 seconds.
Okay. Coach, you have any thoughts on this?
The John Silver guy, what a weird human being. Like, I mean, the arms are bigger than his frame.
Yes.
And I know that might be part of the gimmick, but to me, it's not a good look. When you're 5'5", but your arms are like of what, like Hulk Hogan size, that's just not a good look. Like, you look odd. Like, he looks weird. And I just, the whole thing with that group, what's their name again?
The Dark Order.
The Dark Order.
Yeah.
Just, it's bad. But, I mean, Orange Cassidy's great, right, Pat?
Oh, yeah.
He's fucking awesome.
Love Orange Cassidy.
Yeah. Cassidy put on a great match with Silver. And I will say this match was better than I thought.
Okay.
Like, going into this on paper, I was like, all right, this should have been on the buy-in, but fans were crying that why is Orange Cassidy on a buy-in show?
Sure.
Which I agree with, because Cassidy is your top face in your company.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a very debatable argument. But these two put on a very good show. And John Silver, for his being unique as he is, put on an entertaining match. He's been doing a lot more stuff on being the Elite, but I don't watch that. So this was definitely a better match, like I said, than expected, with Orange Cassidy getting the win. And where he goes from this is hard to determine because obviously he's just had two big profile feuds with Chris Jericho and Cody Rhodes. So he's now in this weird state of flux that I don't know, would you put him in a feud with Kenny Omega?
Yeah, who knows?
I mean, that could be something. Next up, Pat.
You had Darby Allin defeat Cody Rhodes to become your new AEW TNT champion.
Okay, and we have to note that Cody does have the rights back to use Rhodes.
Yep.
Which he kind of did a little tease that he wasn't going to use it in AEW, but they announced him as it.
Yeah,
It was
come
cool.
on.
It's cool to see.
Yeah, no, it was cool to see.
Yeah, that you knew. Listen, you don't have a legal battle come up and then not
So
use it.
You don't put as much money and time and effort into getting that name back for as many years as he did, just to go, all right, I got it back. I'm not going to use it.
Yeah, no,
That's like you. It's like you make enough money in your life to own a Lamborghini, and you go, no, what? I'm just going to keep this in the garage.
Yeah.
that would have been unique if he did, though.
Yeah.
I would have laughed silly. Thoughts on this match?
Did not see any much of this one. I lied. I did see the highlights of it. I mean, it looked like, the whole story leading into this was Darby Allin, being the face of TNT. They wouldn't want that, and Cody, being the pretty boy superstar that he thinks he is. Was the guy that TNT wanted as their champion, and I don't know. They've already wrestled like 3 or 4 times. The crossroads off the top rope. I mean, listen, Darby's going to do crazy shit, but yeah, I mean, we'll see where it goes from here. I mean, it's very interesting to see Cody kind of lose the title, especially since he can't vie for the world heavyweight title. So kind of what they do with Cody from here is going to be pretty interesting, and we'll see who's next for Darby. I mean, I know the Taz group jumped him afterwards, so I'm sure you'll probably get that feud extended with him and Elgin, right? Or is it?
No, it's Brian Cage.
Brian Cage,
and Ricky Starks.
So you'll see that probably go into the summer, and they'll do their thing.
See, the thing about this is we've seen Darby versus Cody a few times in
Right.
AEW, so they really had a chance to reinvent the wheel, and they didn't. This was a decent match. Obviously, they know each other pretty well.
Right.
And for Cody to just win the belt back now to give it away, I don't necessarily know if I like that too much.
I don't.
I think that you really have a secondary belt, and let's face it, it's a secondary belt.
I mean, you sacrificed the heat that was, Luke Harper, Brody,
yeah.
Coming over and being the face of the Dark Order to, have him absolutely wreck the entire Rhodes family to then just lose the title 2 weeks later.
Yeah, it just
now to give it to Darby Allin.
It just didn't really make a lot of sense, and obviously they did have the storyline they've been doing with Team Taz, though, is we've been kept off TV and for rankings matter, and they publicly said this. Brian Cage, I believe, has only lost 1 match.
Sure.
And technically, and Taz was like, technically he didn't. I threw in the towel, so he didn't lose anything. So why is he getting no title shots whatsoever? I will say, though, the beatdown they did after the match, though, was a little extensive. But they were going to just really make a point about how...
Yeah, they got to hammer it home.
Yeah, and obviously doing the whole car spot was a little different, but it was what it was. Not the worst thing ever, but didn't really make a lot of waves. And I mean, my early prediction now is I think Cody is going to start forming his own corporation like Vince McMahon. Basically, because they keep adding members of the Nightmare family.
Yeah.
And it's getting to the point where I'm just expecting a remix of No Chance in Hell to kick in.
Oh, it's NWO 2.0 is
yeah,
what it is.
It's
3.0.
It's Authority 2.0.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to happen, and I'm not sure how I feel about that, because unless I think what is...
Well, don't they already have the Authority in the Dark Order? Like, what the fuck?
No, I mean, their factions are really a mess right now.
Is that like is the Dark Order the Ministry then, and then the corporation's Cody, and then all of a sudden there'll be the Dark Corporation?
Or
the
Dark
Say
Nightmare.
what you will about WWE and their booking and their this and that over the years. At least when they had their factions, you could keep it straight and figure out what the hell was going on.
Maybe the Nightmare Order? Mm-hmm. There we go.
There we go.
Order.
That works. Next up, though.
You had Hikaru Shida retain her AEW Women's Championship belt by defeating Nyla Rose via pinfall in 14 minutes and 9 seconds.
Okay, so this match I thought was one of their better matches that they've had, of Shida and Rose. I think this was hard-hitting. Some might have said it was sloppy at times.
Okay.
I think, but they were really like laying in shots. Like I would say, I don't want to say this almost looked like a shoot fight, but it had that feel to it. The only argument that I'm going to have against this, and if you've been listening to 607 TWS, Rich and I talk about this all the time, the lack of build-up for their women's division is atrocious.
Okay.
Let's not forget, I believe it was in the go-home episode of AEW Dynamite, they had 0 matches with any of their female talent on the show.
Correct. During this match, they ran the crawl for AEW Dark results and talking about Brandy's YouTube channel. During this match. I think that's such a slap in the face to what Shida and Rose were doing, especially because their storyline got no build-up. It got a 5-minute... Alex Marvez backstage segment where he basically said, Shida, Nyla Rose called you out. And Shida's like, we can have our match at Full Gear. And this match definitely was proof that they should have more screen time to work together. I know that it kind of have a weird ending with obviously Vicky Guerrero and how they're setting up her, eventually making Nyla Rose snap and attack her. It was kind of a weird ending after it, but for the in-ring work, it was fine. And like I said, it was only sloppy because it was hard hitting.
Right.
And they were just laying in shots, which I think Sheeta definitely wanted to say how much of a badass she is. And obviously with Nyla Rose being the monster she is, I think you had to do that match, like how the style was for this. So I don't think it was as bad as the online critics have been about it, but that's why they're online, and they're not real critics. Next up, though, was the match of the night contender.
Well, so yeah, you had Matt Jackson and Nick Jackson defeat Cash and Dax to become your and new AEW Tag Team Champions in the longest match of the night at 28 minutes and 25 seconds.
So we finally got the artists formerly known as the Revival versus the Young Bucks. The internet's dream match from 5 years ago. Now, gentlemen, did you see any of this match?
Nope.
No.
Okay. So this match was a slow build, and then they were hitting spots after spots, but not the spots you would think. They were doing homages to the Steiner Brothers, the Legion of Doom, the Hart Foundation, DIY, which they named on camera. The announcers did.
Sure.
Which I was stunned at. I was
That's so weak.
I was like, why would you name DIY? But once this match got going, it really picked up, and I watched it a couple times now. It has definitely grown on me that I think that, yeah, it was definitely a match of the night contender for AEW. They did a lot of great storytelling, and obviously with the Bucks winning, you now have a couple different storylines you can go with, because they were kind of teasing going back to the old Young Bucks heels.
Spot fests for days.
Yeah, the super kick party on high. You might see that happen, albeit though I think Nick Jackson is legitimately hurt.
Yeah, I believe from what I read he is. Yeah.
Yikes. He got
because he was out for some injury, came back, and then almost immediately got hurt afterwards.
Yeah, and then you saw, I believe it was Dax that hurt his hand punching he did a spot where he hit the rail and actually I think cut it open, where the refs actually had to tape it up during the match.
I think I read something about that.
Yeah, which I kind of threw me off guard. I was like, I'm not exactly sure what I think about this. But then to see Wheeler from the Revival hit a 450 splash.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, which I didn't think was in his wheelhouse. He did like one of those springboard jump up to the top ropes and then did it. Absolutely freaking wild. He missed it, but still just see.
Yeah, that's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Hey, no flips, though.
Yeah, no, I know. No flips, no
flips.
And that's how you write the rematch in. Because, well, we went against the game plan. This match, though, I think would make all the internet happy. And I think it delivered on that front. Would I say it was the greatest match ever, like Okada Omega? No, not really. But I would say...
Uncle Dave just said it was.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure he probably gave it 7 minivans, three gas stations, and something else. For me, I thought it was good, though. I would say, like, if I have to give it, like, a grading out of 5, I'll say 4.5.
Okay.
I will say that. I like Sasha Banks versus Bayley and Hell in a Cell better? Yes.
Okay.
So that's kind of my grading scale with this. But not by much. Like, this definitely lived up to the hype. Where they go from here is anybody's guess.
I did see Omega came out after... to hug them, and then Hangman was hanging in the background.
And that was kind of weird, I got to admit, because I figured that with Omega winning, the Hangman Page storyline would be done, and he'd go into a different direction. No.
I mean, the thing that makes sense to me would be if they really, truly did kick him out of the Elite, would be to move Hangman into this group with Dax and... Dash Cash and Dash, and try to form a new Horseman thing with Tully.
See, I think they're going to do that. And Rich's theory is it's going to be Cody instead. Which
oh my fucking god! Like enough.
Yeah,
enough.
That's his theory about
if he's thinking that it's going to be fucking like. I mean, I know this is theory, but if Cody thinks he's going to fill in the Flair shoes, just stop. It has to be. It can't be. Obviously, it can't be the Horseman.
Yeah.
First off, but secondly, it can't be the incarnation of that. It needs to be like Hangman would be perfect in that role because he is. The long blonde hair, the move set, the style and everything. I think it would make a ton of sense. For it to be him.
Yeah.
And plus that would be, that would uplift him, maybe into more of a, now, he's got Tully in his corner. So for him to be an elite player, Tully would help make that happen. And I mean, the person that's got to get kicked out is fucking
Sean Spears.
Because he serves no purpose in that group.
Yeah,
especially with how they already treat it now.
Yeah.
With him and Tully and these two. They're never seen in the same spot.
It's a weird thing, and I'm not sure what they're going to do there, because especially one of the Revival members tweeted out like a weird goodbye to everybody, like they're like alluding they're already done with all Elite Wrestling.
Oh, well, rumor was that they wanted to do New Japan and stuff. So.
Right, but there's kind of like a weird thing that's going on with AEW that they're branching out with the other organizations, like I touched upon, because they've been featuring New Japan wrestlers in vignettes, like doing like shout-outs for like Chris Jericho's birthday and such.
And Ibushi.
Yeah, so I'm not saying they don't have a deal worked out that maybe they could go over there and work, but it's kind of one of those wait to sees. Because I just can't see that they sign the Revival only for a couple dates and then let them go. I mean, I can and I can't. I just think that would be bad business if that's what they did.
Sure it would.
But who knows? I mean, we got to just wait and see about that. But the match lived up to the hype. One match that did not, though, was the next match up.
Yeah, so that was Matt Hardy defeated Sammy Guevara via pinfall in the Elite Deletion in 21 minutes and 24 seconds.
All right, cinematic matches are done.
Yeah,
it's a wrap.
Unfortunately.
This was an absolute mess, not in a good sense.
I only saw like maybe 10 seconds of this, and that was at the end where Gangrel came out and had a hold of the Hurricane, and I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
I'm like, this screams of WCW.
Yeah, it just was messy all over the place. Like Sammy Guevara drove in there on his own golf cart.
Yeah.
To the compound.
And ran over the monster truck.
Yeah. And then it was this weird, like, Matt Hardy with his fireworks going off, like shooting the fireworks at Santana and Ortiz, who showed up randomly.
Right.
And then Private Party apparently was somewhere nearby, and they drove in. Like, it was like, it just got to the point where it was like, instead of being ridiculously good bad, it was
like
just
campy to really campy.
Yeah.
Let's not forget this is the same guy that in one of his cinematic matches left the Rock and Roll Express in a cherry picker.
Yeah. And they ended it with Sammy Guevara, like, it kind of was like, it just had this really, like, weird ending where Sammy was bleeding and then thrown into a garbage can, and Senor Benjamin was dumping him somewhere. I don't know. I left it alone. I was done. I'm like, this is the worst match of the night, and you can't tell me otherwise. Hopefully they don't do another one like this for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Move on.
Next up after that, you had MJF defeat Chris Jericho by a pinfall in 16 minutes and 21 seconds. And if I'm not mistaken, MJF is now in whatever faction Jericho's ahead of?
Yes. So this one...
$10 says he gets rid of it on Wednesday.
Gets rid of what, the faction?
Yeah.
No, I think what they're going to be doing for this one is the storyline has been MJF feels he needs a faction to win in AEW.
Dude, MJF would have been a good in my fourth for my Horseman.
Right.
Damn.
What I think he's going to do in this is he's going to take over the Inner Circle and kick Jericho out. Because
so Jericho can go make another record.
Yeah, he's going to go on Fozzy Tour sooner than later. I just don't know when he's going to do it because their next pay-per-view is in February. So it's a long build-up because I think eventually you're going to have MJF versus Jericho for control of the Inner Circle because this match was okay at best. Nothing really too much to write home about. MJF wins by doing the homage to Eddie Guerrero, so he cheats to win to get in. And now apparently him and Wardlow are now members of the Inner Circle.
Sure, let's just, everybody, you get to be in Inner Circle. Yeah. You're in Inner Circle.
So I think they need to clean
Inner Circle Red and Inner Circle White coming soon.
Yep. Yeah, it's going to happen. And
that's the second video game. That the first one's NW is going to be Inner Circle versus the World. And then it's going to be...
Oh, I got details on that in a minute, and you guys are going to shit yourselves.
Oh. But we got one more match to go through, because obviously the headliner of the night was Jon Moxley versus Eddie Kingston in an I Quit match.
Sure.
Brutal as all could be.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
You knew it was going to be.
I'll say I did not see any of the highlights of the match. I did see Moxley's wife, Renee, tweeted about the match after it was done, and she showed it to her mother. Her mother was not a fan.
No, there was a lot of barbed wire in this one.
Baseball bats.
Yeah. At one point, I think Moxley was cut open, and then Kingston poured rubbing alcohol on his cuts.
Oh, yeah. You sick fuck.
Sick fuck.
Yeah, they definitely did not mess around a little bit. Like I said, there wasn't that much barbed wire.
Has he been texting Foley and getting ideas from Foley?
No, Moxley doesn't need them.
No. No, Eddie Kingston definitely stepped up.
And Eddie doesn't need him either.
Yeah, so this one, a little shorter than I expected, and Kingston kind of didn't really say I quit, but he kind of heard him mutter a little bit. So obviously now you have set up Jon Moxley versus Kenny Omega, who came out at the end of the show, to tease that whenever they decide to do that. So it should be interesting to see when they decide to pull that out. But like I said,
So my problem with that match was it just was obvious Kingston wasn't going to win.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't anything where, maybe the story could have been like, I'm going to break, John, like I'm going to take him there. And obviously you just knew he wasn't going to win, and that makes it difficult to get a match over when you know the outcome.
Yeah.
Well,
I think for Eddie Kingston, he definitely did enough to win over some fans that maybe had not known.
Well,
his
he's
work.
been tremendous on the mic.
Yeah.
And his match with Cody, that first match, obviously got him signed.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's shown that he can put in the work. It's just you can't have a match where like you ultimately know the outcome.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just. I mean, Moxley's not going to lose this guy.
No.
I mean, you went out, you got him, you chased him down for a reason, and you're not going to just let him lose when you know the next coming challenger is the money match.
Yeah, It was just one of those situations where, especially knowing the outcome early in the night, once you knew Omega won, it was like, okay, we know how this is going to play out. So it was what it was for a main event. Nothing really too memorable, except, I mean, it was brutal as all hell to watch. But overall, though, AEW, not a bad show.
Yeah.
No.
Definitely got to say that. I mean, obviously, we got the live reaction still up on twitch.tv/607podcast. Over 500 views so far.
All right.
So definitely swing on over, check that out. And we have some breaking news concerning AEW, Pat.
Yeah, so they put out an announcement yesterday or the last couple of days saying they were going to have an announcement coming up here, and everyone figured it to be about a video game because there's been talk about that for a while, and it is. So tonight, as we record, they published a video announcement with some early details regarding the games. So for the presentation, they had Kenny Omega. They also had Aubrey Edwards, Britt Baker, and Cody Rhodes. Should note, all four of them were dressed as Steve Jobs from Apple.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, 3 games were confirmed. The first was a console game, and it was announced that AEW has partnered with Ukes. Those are the folks that worked on the WWE games for a long-ass time, including they did WWE 2K19. However, they've also partnered with Hideyuki Iwashita, the director of WWF No Mercy on N64.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
They got the guy who directed WWF No Mercy to work on the game.
Oh.
Are you excited, Coach?
That game was so much fun.
So there's a lot of I was looking on Twitter a little bit ago. There's a lot of people going, if this is anything like WWF No Mercy, they're all in.
Oh,
no
my
pun intended.
God.
We're going to have to see about getting those press pictures coming our way because we just did get officially made AEW press. So definitely we're going to have to keep some noise on or ODPH social media this weekend because we'll definitely have a little more to break about it because obviously the press conference is going on right now as we're recording. But I'm excited. Coach is excited.
That career mode was sick.
Yeah. So it should
Figured you'd like that.
It should be some fun things to talk about AEW, but let's have that conversation with you, the ODPH Society. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. What was your thoughts about AEW Full Gear? Have you watched the live reaction on twitch.tv/607podcast yet? And what's your thoughts about the AEW video game? We can talk about that as well. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Johnny Moose from Excite Wrestling, and you're listening to the ODPH. I didn't mess it up. I thought I would. Right now, back to the guys.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Time to round those bases and take it home, but I think we have a local minute.
We do.
Break it down, Pat.
Yeah, so it was announced today during a press conference with Mets president Sandy Alderson. Basically, the press conference was to introduce the new owner of the Mets, Steve Cohen. And it was announced during the press conference that Binghamton, Brooklyn, and St. Lucie will continue being affiliates going forward, but they did not specify whether Binghamton would continue to have a Double-A team. So the Rumble Ponies are staying put.
Okay.
The Mets are not leaving town. Whether they're still the Double-A team or not remains to be seen. Rumble Ponies owner John Hughes did share the following statement with local news station WBNG, saying, quote, "Incredibly excited to be a part of the New York Mets under Steve Cohen and our longtime friend Sandy Alderson. We look forward to supporting their mission in any way possible. It's a great day to be a Mets fan," close quote. So Rumble Ponies at least are not going anywhere. The Mets will continue to be here. Just they may or may not be the AA team, which is fine.
That's fine. We got baseball in town. That's all we need.
Yeah, I wish the same could be said for the Trenton Thunder because there was a mess a little bit over the weekend. So, according to Baseball America, the Yankees posted it on their social media accounts, they are shifting pretty much their entire minor league, bunch of their minor league teams short of Scranton, which is their AAA affiliate. So, the Trenton Thunder will no longer be the AA affiliate of the New York Yankees. The Staten Island Yankees, which is the short season A-ball, will no longer be affiliated. And then the Charleston River Dogs, which is the single A affiliate, will no longer be affiliated with the New York Yankees. Of course, this ties back to what we were talking about earlier in the year before the pandemic hit, shortening, the amount of teams there and coming down to money and all this. The real dirty, real messy part about it is that according to an article on SportsIllustrated.com, the owners of the Trenton Thunder and then the Staten Island Yankees did not find out about this until the announcement was put on social media by the Yankees.
Wow.
Which is not a good look.
Wow.
Yeah, so not a good look. So unfortunate for, those down in Trenton and then those down in Staten Island. I know the diehard fan bases. I've heard that I haven't been down to the Trenton Thunder baseball stadium, but I have heard it is very nice. But so unfortunate for them. I hope they quickly find another team or another, form of baseball to come in there and fill the void because it's a great fan base down there in Trenton.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild to see. I mean, they've been there forever, it feels like. So to see that, and especially how that got done.
Right, and especially since they played the up here in Binghamton a number of times, and it was always great as a Yankee fan to go in there to a home game, watch the then Mets and now Rumble Ponies come through and just see some of those up and coming Yankees prospects. I mean, I know he's a bit of a polarizing person on the Yankees, but I got to see Gary Sanchez play when he was with the Trenton Thunder, and he hit a screaming double off the right center field wall that I'm like, all right, looks pretty good, but so unfortunate for them. But like I said, hopefully they bounce back and find a new team. Yeah,
absolutely. You hate hearing about teams leaving a city, especially, obviously it's not a major city, but still, it's still a town that's going to be without baseball.
No. Switching to my normal base, got a little bit of baseball to talk about. They are in the process this week of announcing awards, and they announced today as we record that, and like I should mention, I've said it before, they vote on these awards before the postseason, and it's a good thing, too, because the Rays manager, Kevin Cash, won Manager of the Year award, and it's a good thing this was voted on before the World Series, because Lord knows he would not have gotten that award based off of his World Series performance.
Yes, indeed.
And then in the probably nearest, thing to a guarantee in baseball there ever is, Don Mattingly won National League Manager of the Year. Because with everything going on with the Marlins, to take that team from being off for what felt like 3 weeks to not only get them back, get them to play the full season, and then make it to their first playoff appearance since 2003. Now, granted, their streak of making the playoffs and then winning the World Series is broken.
Mm-hmm.
They are now 2-1 in that statistic. But regardless, everything that team went through, navigated them through it, got them to the playoffs. Kudos to you, sir, and very much congratulations.
Absolutely, no question. That was well deserved.
Yeah.
So, Coach had to take off. He got a little tweet from Ian Book, I think.
Something like that, yeah.
He got something. He was screaming, "Oh, I got to take this. It's about Notre Dame," and then took off. We weren't sure if he was.
He might be filling in for them this coming week against Boston College. We don't know.
Yeah, we're not exactly sure what's going on. Like I said, I thought you said you got one from Mr. Book there. So, either way, he did. Leave
Maybe it was Charlie Weiss.
It could have been Charlie Weiss. I think if it was, there would have been more F-bombs thrown.
It could be.
But he did leave us with his base to mention that this week, starting Thursday, November 12th through Sunday, November 15th, is the Masters Tournament. The 84th edition of golf's premier tournament is going on. And obviously, it's going to be kind of a little different to watch this year.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a little different. No fans in attendance. So players are already down there getting ready. And if you have not seen the video of the shot from John Rahm,
oh my God,
holy fuck!
Yeah,
go to pretty much any sports Facebook page, and just find it. You'll be able to, because it is the most bonkers hole-in-one I've ever seen in my life, and I am not a big golf fan.
Yeah, no,
holy shit!
I thought it was a trick shot. I legit thought it was a trick shot.
Let's see if Curry can do that, because I know they got the challenge or whatever it is coming up some point soon, because it's Peyton and Curry versus Barkley and Mickelson.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Phil, you're going to lose.
Yeah, Phil, you're going to lose that one. You got no shot. So to go to my base, though, Some quick UFC news and notes.
Okay.
So this past week was a UFC fight night with Glover Teixeira taking on Thiago Santos for number one contendership for the light heavyweight title, pending what is going on with the Adesanya, Blachowicz, John Jones fiasco. And Glover Teixeira continues the Fountain of Youth run and submitted Thiago Santos. Santos was laying in shots. This is the first time we've seen him back since the John Jones fight where he tore every single muscle in his legs.
Yeah.
He came in, he looked strong. Like, didn't look like he lost any power, but Teixeira did the smart thing after getting rocked a few times, took him to the ground, and obviously implemented his will. Like, Santos did not look comfortable on the ground. So I don't know what his degree of jiu-jitsu is, but he definitely needs to work on it because he got dominated. And it was a quick sub, too, when it happened, when he finally got it going. So enough said there. Teixeira is one, so we're going to have to wait and see about that. I know that there's some news breaking that Amanda Nunes has withdrawn from UFC 256, so that has been rescheduled with her and Megan Anderson. I want to say for next year.
Probably.
I'm thinking that they have not said the reason why Nunes has dropped out, but that fight will not be taking place for the featherweight title. And speaking of fights replacements, this Saturday is another UFC fight night. And there is a big change, and I gotta say, I'm trying to get the quote up as we were typing, because Islam Makhachev had to withdraw from the fight against Rafael dos Anjos at the 155 weight class.
Okay.
So obviously, this close to a fight, getting a replacement is next to unheard of.
Unless you're in the weight class of Donald Cerrone.
Yeah, Donald Cerrone.
In which case, you're good.
Yeah, Cerrone, Chimaev is another one, too, that could have been in that case. But no, coming out for this one, and I love this fight, too, is the one and only Paul Felder.
Yo.
So coming in 5 days' notice, this is absolutely wild.
That's bonkers.
And to say he has a quote that definitely sums up what a fighter should be saying at this moment is an understatement. Pad, you have it.
Yeah, he said, quote, "With everything going on in the world, the sad things going on in people's lives, losing their jobs and suffering. We just lost Alex Trebek to pancreatic cancer. I was like, man, you're still 35. You're young. You're in shape. Save the day. Let's go get paid. Let's have fun. You're fighting a legend. What do I have to lose?"
Right on, man. Felder is always entertaining in a fight. He is going to scrap. This is going to be a fun contest. I don't know how this is going to play out. I'll be very honest with you.
No.
Dos Anjos is no joke at 155. Obviously, stepping up to 170 was not the best move in my opinion, but it is what it is. This one, expect fireworks.
Probably.
I would say if Felder can pull this off, that's a huge win. But considering that he has been in some wars with people is an understatement. And he also suffered a collapsed lung in a fight. Like, he is no joke. He's definitely coming in for this, and I'm rooting for him. I gotta say this. I mean, there's nothing against Dos Anjos. I do like him too, but I'm hoping Felder can pull this off. But I just got a feeling Dos Anjos is going to sneak this out. This is going to be a decision. It's going to be back and forth action. Definitely excited for that. So obviously ESPN Plus if you're in the States and wherever you're watching outside, to definitely don't miss this fight. So we are going to close the show out now with some locks and leaps.
Yeah.
Now, Coach left, and he did give us his picks. So his lock was New Orleans over the Niners.
Currently 9.5-point favorites.
9.5 favorites. And his leap, he's drinking the Kool-Aid.
Oh, Lord.
He took the Giants over Philly.
Oh, Christ.
Yeah. So that being said, Pat, who you got for yours?
Well, I'm going to agree with him on the lock there. I like the Saints at home, 9.5-point favorites against the 49ers. Drew Brees and company playing as well as they are. Niners I think they're still got a boatload of injuries going, so I'd see that being able for them to win. This one surprised me for a little for my leap. Seattle going into LA to play the Rams. Currently, the Rams are 1.5-point favorites. I think Seattle, despite LA's secondary and as good as they are, Aaron Donald and whatnot, I think Russ and company are going to be able to pull it off and get the win.
Pat, I am with you on that because that was actually my leap.
All right.
So this one, no game was really jumping. I want to say that too.
Yeah.
Like, I think the wildest one was Green Bay is 14-point favorites over Jacksonville at home.
Yeah, saw that.
Yeah, that one I was like, whoa, that is a lot. And I know the Bills are 2-point favorites going out to Arizona. Look, that's going to be a tough one. I don't want to even have any smoke with that one. So for mine, though, I went for my lock, and Tennessee is 1.5-point favorites over Indianapolis.
Oh.
I usually hate picking Thursday night games. I do, and I usually go against picking division games. But Tennessee is definitely one-dimensional, and Derrick Henry saw what Baltimore did to that Indianapolis defense last week. I think he's going to have a field day this week.
Probably.
And hopefully Phillip Rivers does a better job trying to tackle, because everybody's seen that one stat.
Yeah.
Or the highlight there, if you can call it a highlight. So that being said, I'd like the Titans 1.5, and we'll kind of have to wait and see. Obviously, our Pick'em League on Yahoo is kind of getting a little separation. I don't mean to pat myself on the back a little bit, but yours truly is taking first place. Coach Duffy is in second, only behind by 4 points. Vinny's up there with 67. Colby Max there with 65. JVD is there 64 points. Obviously, Mrs. Coach Duffy, a.k.a. Trophy Wife, is at 63. And 3 Fat Nerds is tied at 63 as well. So definitely still anybody's game there.
Well, I was doing good until the 4 o'clock games hit, and then I got eviscerated.
I had a good 1 o'clock stretch.
No, I did too.
Yeah.
My 1 o'clock stretch, I only got, 2 wrong. 2 or 3 wrong. Then the 4 o'clocks hit, and I just got eviscerated.
Yeah, and I went against my cardinal rule too, which is I never bet or never take the Steelers as the favorites.
Yeah.
And I did, and I was sitting there watching and then it hit me what week it was.
Yeah.
It's just something with me going out to Vegas as many years as I have. Usually I would always go this time of year, and Pittsburgh never covers as a favorite. Never does this week.
Well, I mean, at least the 1 year was because Bieber.
Yeah, Bieber. That being said, the music you heard on this edition of the ODPH podcast is that of Brian Wolf. Now, Pat, do you know what Brian's doing Wednesdays now?
He's live on Facebook, isn't he?
Yes, he's doing his Patreon concerts on Facebook. So if you want him to play something, you obviously got to head over to his Patreon, and you can request some stuff. I know he has blocked me because I wanted him to play some Nickelback.
I was just going to ask that.
Oh, yeah. There's a long story behind that maybe Brian will tell on air at some point. We got to get him back in here for that. But if you want to find out everything going on with him, Shout at the Robots, Floodland, Second Suitor, Tom Jolu, all the great bands you hear on the ODPH podcast, you check on over at the music section at ochoduroparlayhour.com. You can also check out the directory, which has friends of the show, all the amazing pod groups we are in, organizational links to Black Lives Matter, and so much more, all under one-stop shop with Parlay Points, which I got some stuff I'm working on. I don't want to reveal it just yet, but we're going to bring that back in a big way by year's end. All of that, and like I said, so much more at ochoduroparlayhour.com. That's all I got for this week. So for the one and only Padawan J.
If anyone has a giant life-size cutout of Charlie Weiss or John Calipari, Coach Duffy would like to have a conversation with you.
I would love to have a conversation with you, too. Oh, my God. If we can have that in here, I'll put that in the studio, and we'll put that on Twitch. All right, listeners, you have your homework assignments this week. Let us know what you got. I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you, as always, for listening to the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. See you next time.